Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to beautiful Malvern here in the British countryside in Worcestershire. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Alex. I'm your host and MC for our Great British STIHL GB Pro Championships. It's our 10th championships, and you are expecting to see some white-hot action with chainsaws, with axes, 2-metre long saws. It's all to come on this very stage. White-hot action. You're going to see speed, strength, endurance, discipline and concentration from our top athletes that this country has produced. Are we ready to go, folks? That's about 6 of you. Are you ready to go? All right, let's bring out our judges first and foremost to make sure this event runs safely. Please welcome onto our stage Mr. Bart Jansen and Mr. Andy Hall. Okay, so Bart and Andy are going to make sure this event runs smoothly and safely. And of course, a bit like VAR, we've got our video judge in the truck. We have Jules Jansen, making sure that as the axes fall and the saws run through the wood, everything is watertight. We're expecting some British records to fall as well today. So Jules in the truck, he will have his eye on everything. There he is with his team. Ready to go. Yes, thank you, Jules. All right, folks, let's bring out the cream of the crop. We need some athletes. Are you ready to meet them? Okay, here we go. Let's welcome on to the stage here at Malvern. Firstly, from Middlewich in Cheshire, he's an instructor and lecturer. Please welcome John Tunstall. Next up, Welsh farmer. He's up and coming, one to watch. Welcome on, Martin Price. We welcome Dan Whelan. Dan is a tree surgeon from Shropshire, and he's also a 3-time world champion in pole climbing. Next up, he's a former Irish Rugby League international. He's got support all the way from Ireland as well. Give it up for Gavin Thompson. And the names keep getting bigger. Former British champion of 2014. He's a local lad from Hanley Broadheath. It's Mr. Rob Chatley. Coming onto the stage from Denbigh in Wales. Several pro tournaments under his belt. Please welcome Osh Williams. Next up, he only made his pro debut last year. He's a 27-year-old forester from Hereford. It is George Spencer. A debutant back in 2021, posting a 3rd place finish from Bear Regent in Dorset. It is Tom Redmond. Arriving in from Neffin in Wales, 30 years as a firefighter. He's performed in practically all of our 10 Great British Championships. Mr. Terry Hall. With a great tradition of axemen from Knighton in Wales. Our runner-up in 2019, it is Johnny Lewis. And our first ever Scottish professional, the runner-up from last year. Please welcome Graham Turner. And our 12th and final athlete, he's been chopping since he was 15 years old. He's been chopping for 17 years. He is our reigning Great British champion, Glenn Penlington. So our athletes are primed and ready. It is all to play for, and to describe the action and talk us through wonderfully, I'm delighted to welcome to the British Isles all the way from Canada, Mr. Troy Mannering.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Yeah, we're going to have a great day on stage here. We've got a full 6-discipline individual pro competition that's going to get broken down into 3 rounds. Alex is going to join me here on the studio set shortly as we take our athletes off stage, get everything ready for our first set of heats coming up, and that's going to start things off with the underhand chop. Now, before we get started with the action, we're going to take a quick look at the event format and how this is all going to break down for us today. The STIHL Timbersports individual competition. In the first round, all athletes compete in 3 disciplines: the underhand chop, the stock saw, and the standing block chop. The times achieved will be converted into points upon completion of each discipline. In round 1, a difference of 1 point applies in each discipline, thus the fastest athlete received 12 points and the slowest only 1 point. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. At the end of the first round, the athletes with the lowest scores are eliminated. Only 8 athletes make it to the second round. In this second round, the remaining athletes compete in the single buck and the springboard for increased scores. With 2 points difference between placings, the fastest athlete now receives 16 points and the slowest receives 2. The 2 athletes with the lowest total points are eliminated at the end of round 2. Only the top 6 reach the third round. In the third round, anything is still possible in the hot saw, as an increased score interval of 3 points applies in this final round. The fastest athlete can score up to 18 points at the hot saw, the slowest only 3 points. The athlete who manages to achieve the highest total score across all 3 rounds is the new champion.
Okay, so we are about ready to start. This is where the excitement builds and all those months of training since we were here last year comes to a climax and our athletes can get on the stage and begin their quest to become the British champion. Troy, we are about ready to go with our first heat.
Yep.
It is the standing block chop. Let's see how it's going to unfold.
The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32-centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
So we're about ready to go here with the underhand chop. I got so excited, Troy, that I'm announcing the wrong disciplines, but we are firmly ready to go with the underhand chop. What's it all about and who we got taking part right now?
Well, you can see from our starting list, we've got Tunstall going up against Price in Heat 1 and Whalen and Thompson going up against each other in Heat 2. We do have an Irish competitor in there as a guest competitor to round out our field, and you can see all the blocks ready on stage. The object here, like you saw from the tool and description, is to get through that block as quickly as possible and gain as many points. Now, you'll see 2 athletes on stage, but they will not be competing in a knockout format. This is all about getting the fastest time possible. And here is our first heat, John Tunstall and Martin Price. And you can see there's the world record of 12:01 and 18:99 is the national record for Great Britain. So both of those numbers are going to be numbers these guys are going to be aiming for, but more often than not, they're just going to be trying to get through as quickly as possible.
See John making his final preparations there. Underhand chop is his favourite discipline, he says. It's the one he's practiced the most, rehearsed the most, trained for the most, and it's because it's just him against the log.
All right, here we go with our first discipline of the day.
Okay, gentlemen, Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
John Tunstall with a nice start. He had the axe swing on the way up before the whistle blew, so that's good. That means he was prepared for action as they both start getting working on the first side of that block. Nice to see some big chips flying out as they make minor adjustments up and down the block, 2 hits on each side to try and get as much material out of there as possible. And there you see from Martin Price, he's got some pretty accurate shots there. Martin Price stepping down really quickly though. Got to make sure that you stay on that block when you're swinging the axe. Now, Martin already moved over to the other side of his block as the time passes 35 seconds here. John Tunstall still on the first side of his block. Oh, some big chips coming out for Martin Price there, as we may see him getting through that block fairly quickly now, as he's cutting from the other side, facing our live audience. John Tunstall just getting onto the second side of his block now. He's also very accurate, but he's having trouble getting that chip out, and that's going to cause problems because it's just material in the way. On the far side, Martin Price is coming close to getting through that block. He's also coming close to a timeout. Oh, but he's safe with a 1:08.87, so he's got a time on the board, and that is also marked as a personal best. These times, we should also mention, are completely unofficial until we are given the thumbs up from our competition control center and our judges on stage. Tunstall still working through his block, but that is a time limit exceeded, unfortunately for him. So that means that he will be stopped as he did not get through in the 1 minute 30 second allotted time frame. That's a bit of a difficult pill to swallow for any of the athletes because they work so hard on these disciplines to make sure that they are on point. But you got to give it extra props for just continuing to keep on going. That's the fighting mentality right there.
Okay, we have a disqualification on stand 1, exceeding the time limit. However, this cut is good.
So we do have our first score on the board. Martin Price atop the rankings in Underhand Chop, having a time of 1:08.51. So we'll take a quick look back at the slow-mos here. At the very start, both of these guys really got into it very well, Alex. And I mean, they were doing a good job getting some nice slabs out.
I'm just looking at how close those axes are to those athletes' feet, and it's scary.
Yeah, it is really scary. And a lot of people question why they're wearing like soft sneakers on there. That's for the grip. So these guys are required to wear chainmail socks and shin guards underneath or over top of their pants. It doesn't matter as long as they wear them to protect themselves from that sharp axe head. You can see both of these guys, Martin Price, John Tunstall, doing a good job. It was just a little bit too much for John today as he went over time, and Martin Price gets our first time in the books at 1:08.51.
I noticed at the start, Troy, the axe went up above over the head. Mm-hmm. And then, are they allowed to do that? So when's the timer start? Obviously, can that axe
as long as the axe doesn't impact the block before the timer starts and the go is given, it's completely legal.
Okay, let's welcome our next 2 athletes onto the stage. We have Dan Whelan and Gavin Thompson.
Gavin Thompson will be on stand number 2 on the right-hand side of the stage. There's Dan Whelan just getting his axes. You'll see also that these athletes will bring out 2 axes onto the stage. That is allowed, although they probably won't be using 2 axes. The deal is that if something should happen or if they feel like the first axe they chose isn't working well, they can always switch.
Okay, gentlemen.
Mid-cut.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Dan Whelan opting to face the audience to start, where Gavin Thompson has his back to the audience to start things off. Both of them getting into the wood right away very nicely. There's a picture of Gavin Thompson, who is chipping away really well, just keeping a close eye on that line on his foothold. He's got to be careful not to cut the footholds, as now Gavin Thompson has moved over to the other side of his block, showing some great skills on the underhand chop. There's minor adjustments and some big chips are flying. Dan Whelan still cutting away at his now and looking to move to the other side fairly soon. Gavin Thompson looks close to getting through his block though, and it may well be a good time for our Irish competitor here, Has it maybe a couple drivers more to get through, and he is through in a nice time of 44.80 seconds. Very well done. That was a nice job by Gavin there. Dan Whelan, not sure if he's moved over to the other side of his block. Yes, he has. So now working on the second side of his block to try and get through there. Remember, he has 1 minute and 30 seconds to make those cuts count, so he's still in the mix at the moment, but he has a bit of work cut out for him, getting those chips and that material out of the way, trying to be as accurate as possible to really not cut new material on that block as we get down towards the 1 minute 30 second mark here. Let's see if he can do it. He's got some big pieces of meat in there. There they go. That's good. But he got to the time limit, unfortunately. And that means we are going to have our second DQ for over the time limit. Another disappointing start there. But this is about the experience and making sure that these guys have a chance to compete at this level. And I mean, they definitely deserve to be here. It's just one of those situations that happens.
Okay, unfortunately, we have a disqualification for exceeding the time limit. However, this cut is good.
So let's take a look at some of the replays there from the action. Troy, you noticed with Dan particularly, the axe getting stuck. And how much does that stickiness affect you and your rhythm when you are attacking the log?
Well, I mean, you know, you get that axe stuck in there and it takes a lot of energy to wedge it out, especially if you've got it in really deep in the block, and that's an unfortunate reality if you've got power and you can't control the power and just get a nice clean cut, and your axe choice plays a role as well. So if you get it stuck in there, it's an effort to get it out, and then you start to get a bit tired cutting, and then the tiredness changes the angle of the axe, and then you start to cut straight in. Instead of cutting away new material, your accuracy goes out the window. So there's a lot of things that can play a role here in why we went to the DQ and the time exceeded there. But particularly, it's about fitness these days. These guys are all so incredibly fit. So there's a lot going on over a weekend like this. There's shows, there's a demonstration, there's a bunch of different things. So a lot of these guys are working the entire weekend and not just competing here at this event.
Yeah, and it's not just timber sports that our athletes take part in for that all-round fitness. The cricketers, rugby players, mountain bikers, pole climbers, the lot. How much does technique play a part as well, Troy, as to, you know, those, you know, marginal gains, those split times, the personal best we want to see fall, national records?
Yeah, I mean, in the underhand chop, and particularly in the chopping disciplines, technique is massive. It's really about hitting at the same spot each time so that you're not making new cuts on new material every time. Because if you can hit at the same spot each and every time on each side and have nice smooth walls, you're taking out more of that material in the middle. And the less material there is in the way, the easier it's to cut through, cut fast, and cut clean. And remember, these guys have to cut from both sides of the block, so they also have to step over to the other side and start again fresh on the other side. So that axe sticking in there is a critical factor, like you mentioned before. So yeah, technique is massive for these guys.
Now, we don't really want to see any disqualifications, but a couple of our athletes in the past two heats ran out of time, essentially. But we've got points on the board already for Gavin Thompson and Martin Price. The next heat is being set up, and it's a former Great British champ, Rob Chatley, up against Osh Williams on the stage.
Now, we do mention a lot that this is the original extreme sport, and it basically started way back in the day and has developed into what we see on stage today. Let's take a little look back at the history of timber sports.
Expert woodsman who can cut down a tree more easily than most people can chop one up. When it really comes to tackling large lumps, you can't beat the men of the forestry companies.
An axeman's gathering.
This is Thomas losing the loss that gets it.
We are ready to go with Heat 3. Rob Chatley, Osh Williams taking the stand. And don't forget, this isn't a heads-to-head. It's about the fastest time gains you more points amongst the 12 athletes. So here we go, Troy.
And Rob, by the way, is the man that holds the national record in this discipline. So I talked with him earlier on as he was picking his axes. I said, so what axe are you going to use today? He's like, I'm not telling you that. Are you nuts? So these guys are very particular. They've got 6 to 8 axes in their quiver. And they have different axes for different functions out there. There's a banana head, blade. I mean, there's science in there somehow that I just don't understand. Osh Williams, by the way, I believe just had a birthday on Thursday, I think. So happy birthday to him. And here we go with heat number 3.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, the power right away for both of these guys is incredible. Ocean Williams getting some nice big chips out of his block. There you see him right in front of us, and over to the right there, Rob Chatley already moving over to the other side of his block. That was a quick first side. Let's see if he can get another national record. I don't think it's going to, oh, maybe it will happen. No, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I got a little bit overexcited there, but that was a nice time of 20.30, fastest time so far in the day. Ocean Williams trying to get through on that second side now. He's got a quick axe. He's got the power. He's almost there. Let's get him moving on. Is he going to make it? Let's see what this time is going to be. He must be getting close to getting through there. Struggling a little bit on the second side with the sticky axe. Oh yeah, he's got a bit of a step there and a big piece that's right in the middle that's blocking everything that hasn't chipped out, and that's going to be causing him problems as he's trying to find his way through. And a time of 57 seconds dead even for Ocean Williams.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
It was great to see with 3 heats under our belt now, Troy. Both athletes so close to their personal best. I mean, Rob has the national record with 18.99. You can see just how close he was there. And
yeah.
Osh, you know, he was staring down the barrel of his PB. He was at 45.86 before this event today, and he was labouring a bit towards the end, as we can see from the replays.
Well, on the first side of his block, he was really, really good, actually. I mean, he had some fantastically accurate hits. He was slabbing out nicely. The chips were flying. But when he got onto the second side of his block, and here we see Rob Chatley's block as he just hops off there. But Osh was really struggling on the second side. And if we see the slow-mo on the front view, there was a big chunk of wood that was right in the way, and I guess we're not going to get to see it there, but there was a big chunk of wood that was right in the way and really causing him problems.
Okay, we move things on now. Heat 4. Onto the stand comes George Spencer and Tom Redmond.
George Spencer had a spectacular single buck in the shows the other day, so looking forward to seeing if he can bring that spectacular single buck into the competition later on. Right now, his focus is going to be on getting through that underhand chop clean. There's Tom Redmond setting things up. And what he's doing there is he's putting a little bit of lube on that axe head so that those first drivers don't get stuck in there right away.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start by both George and Tom. George quick to move from side to side. He's got a quick axe head speed, a little sticky one there. Tom's got a ton of power and experience, so both of these guys really playing to their strengths right now. George looking good there with some nice chips coming off. Tom has already moved to the other side of his block, and that's going to put a bit of pressure on George to try and get over there as quickly as possible. Remembering, this is not knockout, this is just time-based, but still, you got another guy on stage, and you have somebody to battle against here. Tom Redmond threw in 35.15. George Spencer going 1-1 on this hits here. Now he's doubling it up, trying to get through a thin spot. Looks like he might have 1 or 2 more drivers to get there. And let's see, as the time comes to a 50.29 for George Spencer.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
A nice time from Tom Redmond. He hasn't hit a personal best, but George Spencer did do that with a 50.12. Tom Redmond with the second fastest time of the day, just behind Rob Chatley, as we look back at the slow-mo highlights. And on the first side, they're really looking good, but it was Tom who was quick over to the other side, and he really utilized that to his advantage, getting not so deep on the first side, but he was very good on that second side. And here we see the orange sneakers of George, matching his crossed axes on the back of his jersey. And there's Tom's final driver through. All right, so thus far, here's where we stand.
Yeah, former British champ Rob Chatley, local boy from Worcestershire, leads the way right now, but there are athletes still to perform in this discipline, so Rob's there to be got at.
Yeah, we still do have 2 more heats, and now the underhand chop ranking, because this is the first discipline of 3 in round 1, this will also be the overall ranking. So right now, Rob Chatley, Tom Redmond, at the top of the ranking for our Great British Championship here for the pro men. And so now this is about these guys trying to maintain and pad their times as we go into the next disciplines in round 1. So now remember, in round 1, we have 3 disciplines, and then we eliminate 4 athletes from the list, and then we have 2 additional disciplines, and we eliminate 2 more athletes from the list, and we go into the hot saw with the final 6 athletes.
I think I'm still with you.
Okay, I hope so too, because I'm kind of confusing myself a little bit.
Yeah, now the wood is all important in all of our timber sports. It's premium quality. Let's have a look at how it's made.
STIHL Timbersports is an international extreme sports competition series featuring 6 disciplines: 3 chopping and 3 sawing. We have a premier competition, we need premier wood. The biggest challenges that I face as part of my role is to ensure that our competitions are supplied with the highest quality wood.
Each individual tree is examined for its conformation before processing. We need to make it fair for all athletes. So we are selecting different sections of the trees to use for each of our specific disciplines.
Once the trees are felled, extracted and transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks. We then peel the blocks ready for competition. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our STIHL Timbersports competitions.
All right, we move on through the heats. Heat 5 sees our proud Scotsman Graham Turner against the Welsh wizard Terry Hoff.
We've been mentioning all weekend long that Terry Hoff is a little bit like Benjamin Button. He's aging backwards. He's so fit and still a relevant competitor here. And Terry is coming up on stage right now just to get ready for this underhand chop against Graham Turner. Now, Graham is a big, strong man. Came in second last year in the British Championship. So looking for an improvement for himself there. I think that Graham maybe puts a little bit of pressure on himself, but I went up to him earlier and I said, just have fun and you'll succeed. So he's in a good one here with Terry Hoff on stage as they get ready to step up and do underhand chop in our 5th of 6.
Okay, gentlemen, athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good start by both of them. A sticky one there for Graham as they both start to chip out some big blocks. So you can see how wide open and steep the angles are on those first initial hits as those chips start to fly away, as they're slabbing those blocks out. Terry Hoff looking good as he is opting for the quick runs there and a bit of a narrower cut. Graham, on the other hand, moving over to the other side of his block with a really wide opening cut. So he should go a little bit shallower on the backside there, trying to get through in a good time. Let's see if he can best his fastest time as Terry Hoff has now moved over to the other side. Graham quick with the axe. He's doing really well here. Coming up on the 42-second mark as both of these guys really working the second side of their block. And that's a nice time from Graham Turner, 44.59. That puts him in 4th place at the moment. Well done, Terry Hoff. Struggling on that second side, but it's starting to wiggle a little bit as he should do it right there with a 57.19. Nice.
Really solid performance by both our athletes. It's over to Judge Andy Hall for the final verdict.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
That's precisely what we want to see, Troy.
Yeah. I mean, both cuts are good. It's always good to see, and those guys having some really good times there. A little bit of an initial sticky axe for Graham there, but you could see how quickly he was driving the axe and how frequent his drivers were. Terry Hoff doing very much the same thing on his side, although his first side was a little bit of a narrower cut on the angles of the wall, whereas Graham's first side was quite a bit steeper, so taking out more material on the first side. It's a bit of a tactical thought process, I think, for these guys, as you know, giving them something less to cut through on the second side. And it was a good job, but just a shake of the head from Graham. He doesn't seem too pleased with that time, but right now he's sitting in 3rd place, actually, after the adjustments have been made and the official times are locked in place.
Okay, it's heat 6, the final heat of our first discipline, the underhand chop, and it's Great British champion Glenn Penlington on stand 1, and on stand 2 it's Johnny Lewis, 2 Welshmen, 2 experts with the axe.
Johnny Lewis, a gentle giant, always got a smile on his face. Glenn Penlington, one of the new generation of timber sports athletes that are very, very fit, incredibly fit. He's also got forearms like steel rods. It's unbelievable.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, right away. Glenn gets a big stuck axe and
he means business.
Both of these guys, John Lewis is, look at this, he's staring at that block and he is hating on that block. Look how quick he's moving that axe. Incredible speed by both of these guys, both of them moving over to the other side of their blocks more or less at the same time. Glenn Penlington a little bit faster to get those chips out. Johnny Lewis trying to keep up with the young man on the other side of the stage. And it's Glenn Penlington with a personal best, 25.98. Absolutely fantastic run from the young man. And John Lewis, he is just not giving up at all. Look at the speed of the axe as he pushes through to try and get through that block. Let's see if he could do it here as he's almost there. Oh, that was a massive sticky axe right there for him. Huge problems. As you can see, it's sneaking through to the other side, and he's just trying to find it, but he's got a knot right there. You can see that little dark section. You never know if you're going to have one until you get into the block, and that can cause major problems, even for a huge man with a record like John Lewis's, and he's got a 59.21. That's going to be an unhappy cut for John Lewis because his personal best was previously 24 and change. That was a great cut from Glenn, though. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Glenn absolutely flying out of the traps. And Johnny was right there as well, Troy. It's the look of the draw on the wood. You don't know what's inside.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys were hitting at a pace that was incredible on the first side. They both turned over to the second side more or less exactly at the same time. You could see even in the slow-mos, the pace of that axe is just incredible. Now, Glenn, he's going up a bit higher with each of his drivers, whereas John, he's kept his body heaped over, and now he switches over to the other side and starts working on the other side of that block. He was quick to get to the other side with Glenn, and Glenn just had the luck of the draw there with a nice clean cut through on his final driver. And that we did see from the front side of John's block, there was a little bit of a dark section in there, which usually indicates that there is a knot, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, let's see what's come out in the wash points-wise after that first discipline, the underhand chop. So 4th place upwards, Graham Turner. You can see those fine margins there. Graham taking 9 points, 1 point more than Gavin Thomas, and you can see You know, it's 0.3 of a second almost. Tom Redmond, he gets 10 points. A personal best for Glenn Penlington. That's enough for 11th place. And you saw just how hard our local boy Rob Chatley was hitting to take all 12 points with a time of 19.91 seconds.
So there you have it. The first discipline is done and dusted. Our crew will prepare the stage for the second discipline, which is going to go by so lightning fast, and that is the stock saw. We did have, as you mentioned, a few personal bests in that one, and we always like to see the personal best. It may not be a complete line of personal bests, but what that means is there is improvement stage to stage. And so that's always something nice to see for our athletes.
Yeah, and it's, I'm sure Rob Chatley's sitting top of the tree right now. He's got the local support behind him. And we're going to take a look at our next video, which is the next discipline, the stock saw. This is where the chainsaws get primed and ready.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional STIHL technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, one downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
Stock saw, here we go. We've got our heats lined up. 6 heats, 12 athletes. And we are going to see John Tunstall in Heat 1 and Martin Price, the farmer from Prestine Powys in Wales, going head to head. Then it'll be followed by Dan Whelan from Shropshire, he's a tree surgeon, and our Irish guest, Mr. Gavin Thompson. So yes, the stock saw, Heat 1, John Tunstall, Martin Price, ready to take the stand.
So we saw these two guys going head-to-head in the underhand chop at the very opening of the competition, and they will go head-to-head once again, this time with the stock saw. However, the difference here is the stock saw isn't all about being muscly and powerful. You also have to have a good feel for the machine that you're operating. You have to hear the engine of the machine. You have to feel it in your hands. If it's starting to, excuse me, if it's starting to bog down, if you feel like the chain is starting to slow down. The last thing you want to do is push too hard on that bar in the wood and make the chain stop, because that will just cause problems for your time.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
So this is a hot start event. That means the stars will stay running on stage on their rubber pads.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
John Tunstall. Wow, John was quick into that wood. Holy smokes, folks. That's about the fastest start I've seen in ages. Martin Price right there with them. But the cut up on John Tunstall is a national record. Unbelievable start by Tunstall.
Yes,
and a fantastic final cut with a 10.49. What a way to get into the competition here. And Martin Price had to go back and cut another one because I believe he had a cutout, so an incomplete cookie. And that's going to change his time drastically at the end. We'll wait for the final cut through, and let's just see if Tunstall's time will actually count. We do have a cookie in Bart Janssen's hand that does look incomplete, so we may have a problem here.
Okay, unfortunately we have a disqualification on stand 1 for an incomplete disc. However, this cut is good.
Desperately disappointing for John. We were right there with him.
That is heartbreaking. He was so fast on the start. He was right into the wood, and I don't know if that's where he had the incomplete cookie. Let's see. Look at that, right there, bang. I don't see the incomplete cookie there for him, so we'll have to see in the slow-mo further on where the actual cutout was. This looked like a good first cookie. Thin to win right there by Martin Price. It was the bottom part of the upcut for John. That was the problem. He just didn't go over far enough. But man, the efficiency of his cut was spectacular. I really feel bad because that was an amazing cut for him.
All right, now, next heat. Dan Whelan, the tree surgeon from Shropshire, up against Gavin Thompson. Will Irish eyes be smiling after heat 2? So we welcome both athletes onto the stage.
Yeah, you'll see the guys will sometimes bring up a grease pen or some sort of a marker. And it's what you're seeing Dan do right there. He's just setting that marker so that he can see right away where his first cut is going to drop in. Now remember, they do only have 10 centimeters to make those 2 cuts, so they have to be accurate as well.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
Immediate starts by those STIHL MS661 saws. They're so reliable out in the field. Why not in competition? Here we go.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Very nice start by Dan Whelan. He's got a thin cookie. Gavin Thompson looking good as well. Thin to win is the rule of thumb. If you get too thick, you might start to bog down a little bit. Gavin Thompson, a national record for the Irish Sawyer, 11.31. Dan Whelan with a personal best, 11.85. Now it's about the judges and checking the lines and the cookies.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Fantastic. So we have a national record and a personal best. That was things that we like to see every time. Dan Whelan and Gavin Thompson. Gavin Thompson topping the stock saw results for the moment.
Now, Troy, these stock saws that we're seeing in use today, by no means the largest chainsaw of the STIHL range, eh?
No, not at all. This is about the average. This is a typical working man's chainsaw. And there's no modifications at all on the motor or the chain. The bar and everything is the same size for every athlete, and they're all checked to make sure that we have fair conditions for everybody.
Now, this will be a fascinating matchup. Heat 3, Rob Chatley and Graham Turner. You can see those PBs right there, 11.2 for Rob. Graham not far behind with 15.3. This is going to be rapid.
And there you see Rob Chatley doing the same thing that many do, just marking up that block to make sure he's got his guideline for the first cut. Some guys will actually put 2 markers in there. They'll put one for the first cut, which you're seeing Graham check now, and then they'll put another one.
Okay, gentlemen.
To line up the second cut from below.
Warm up your saws. Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh. Bit of a wacky grab by Rob Chatley, but he got into it. Looks like a nice piece of cookie cut there. Graham Turner right there with him. Does Graham have the faster upcut? He does! Graham Turner, our personal best, 11.45. Rob Chatley struggling with a thick second cookie. He had to reset, I believe. It looks like he had a cutout and had to reset, and he goes in with a 15.54. They'll check that really quickly to make sure that second cookie was massive. Graham happy about that.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Troy, there's been some training put in by all our athletes. Yeah, in the lead up to these events, everyone's looking really strong.
Yeah, everybody's looking very good. You can see where the guys have been putting in the time training. You can see right there was just a little bit of a miscrap by Rob, and I think his time would have been a bit faster. He did have a very nice first cookie, and here you can see Graham on his first cut. The transition was a bit of a swing down, but he got back into a nice line on the wood, and you could see the angle of his saw was beautiful. He fulcrumed that up right to the final cut, and it very nicely done. You can see right there, there's a little cutout, and Rob had to reset, obviously, and that's why his time was that much slower than what he expected to have.
So we are moving on to Heat 4. Two Welshmen on the stand, Terry Hoff and Osh Williams.
My goodness, I'm just looking at the overall standings at the moment. Rob Chatley, Graham Turner, and Gavin Thompson, all with 20 points after 2 disciplines so far. So that's unbelievable.
Another favourite event for both our athletes, but for both Terry and Osh. PBs, 11.45 for Terry and 12.13 for Osh. Troy, I was going to ask, you know, on that first cookie cut, when the wood falls, how off-putting, how pivotal can that be to the athletes? Can it get in the way? Can it disrupt?
It depends on how it falls, but normally it will fall and land on its edge and fall off to the side. Sometimes, if the saw just gives it a bit of a spin, it will hit the deck and roll away.
Okay,
but I think these guys are so focused that they just don't notice it. They just focus on the next thing that has to happen.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So we got a couple of good sawyers here. Terry Hoff with a ton of experience. Osh Williams, very good feeling with these saws in hand as he steps into and leans into that saw. He's going to have a good cut. There's a nice time for Osh Williams, 11.49. Terry Hoff with an 11.76. How close is that? Fantastic cuts for both of those guys. Just an amazing run through.
Yeah, we're now on 4 PBs and a national record from 8 athletes so far in this. This is outstanding work.
Love it.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
There's that secret smile from Osh Williams. He knows he had a good cut, and he's stepping off the stage with a very, very nice result there. He's in second place in the stock saw results with a personal best, and as you mentioned, 4 personal bests and a national record. Just amazing. You can see both of them very quick in. That's Terry's saw right there. He started to saw back and forth with the cuts. Oh no, excuse me, that's Osh. It was Terry that had a couple of actual physically moving the saw back and forth at the start to try and control the saw's movement in the block. So that was a very nice. You could see Osh stepping up into the cut as he was leaning forward to try and get that saw moving quick through there. And now we see Dan Jansen of the Jansen clan up there on stage doing a straightening cut on that block. They've gotten so good at it, they don't even need to use the rigs anymore. They just make a straight cut, and it's usually perfect. So heat number 5 coming up will be between Glenn Penlington and Tom Redmond.
This is certainly a matchup to keep your eyes glued to. Our reigning British champ and Tom Redmond, who has only been on the pro circuit for a couple of years. His first year, he took away a bronze medal, and he was knocking hard on the door last year of a podium finish, and he will be doing so again this year.
Yeah, well, there are guys that have a natural talent and continue to work it, and there are guys that have to work to reach the talent, and we have everything here. And we know that Tom has definitely, you know, like you said, been knocking on the door. Is this his year? Who knows? But there are a lot of fantastic athletes here this weekend.
And there's great family heritage in the Penlington family as far as timber sports is concerned. Glenn, he's been chopping and sawing for a good 17 years. He is our current British champ. His sister is the reigning female champ, and his recently retired dad, who's celebrating his 60th birthday today. He was a timber sports legend in this country.
He told me that Glenn's been pushing him to maybe start up again so that they could go down to New Zealand and compete against each other.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
Tom likes that engine hot.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Very nice start by Tom Redmond. Glenn getting in there very quickly as well. He's got a bit of a thick first cookie. Transition for both of them is fantastic, but Redmond has a cutout, so he's got to reposition and get it. And Glenn gets it in 11:49, and even with the cutout, Tom Redmond's got 14. That's an amazing run for him. That puts him in 7th in the stock saw results at the moment. These are, of course, unofficial times, as always, until given the thumbs up by our on-stage judges and the final count from the Competition Control Center. Don't see any
Okay,
problems here.
congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, so personal best there after adjustment for Glenn Pendleton, 11:33, and they actually did make the time a bit faster for Tom with a 13:87. Still has him in 7th place, but look at the start by Tom. Beautiful first cut, nice thin cookie. You'll see a bit of a thicker cookie by Glenn here, as he's got about 1.5 to 2 inch thick cookie, but right here is where the problem ensued for Tom. He had a cutout at the bottom, realized it, made the quick adjustment, had plenty of space in there, and still managed to get a very good time even after changing the position of the saw. Nicely done.
Troy, it's so pleasing to see all these personal bests today from our athletes, and
Yeah.
you know, the training they put in, the dedication they apply to the sport. And these two athletes next up are no different. Johnny Lewis, George Spencer. They've been here since the middle of the week, and backstage they're absolutely alive with practicing and rehearsing their craft.
George also had a fantastic stock saw in one of the demos the other day, where we were all like, holy moly, is that a new record? Unfortunately not. There was a bit of a system malfunction there, but he was really, really quick. His time was great. So expect to see a good time from George here today, who's seemingly pretty relaxed under the circumstances, as he's only in, I believe, his 2nd year as a pro.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, both of these guys getting right into it. Great first cut from George Spencer. Transition was beautiful. Could we have a really good time from the young man? We will. Another personal best for George Spencer at 10.90. Absolutely amazing. Johnny Lewis with a 12.51, and Spencer knows exactly that he's had a good cut. Oh, wait a minute. He's going, I don't know. Did I go over the line? We'll see what the judges say.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
He was just messing with our cameraman. Max 2.0 up there on the right-hand side of the stage. But it was a good cut by George Spencer. Very, very good cut. Look at the start here. So quick in there. A little bit of a dangle over top, and then he just motored through that block like a hot knife through butter. It was just incredible. The transition at the bottom was amazing as well. Nice, steady flow, very good cut. We're going to see good things from that young man in the future. Johnny Lewis, of course, always the consummate professional out there.
So let's have a look how the stock saw results have panned out. 10 points in 3rd place. Look at all those PBs. So good to see. Glenn Pendleton takes 10 points. Gavin Thompson, 2nd place, 11 points with a national record for the Irish competitor. And top of the shop, the full 12 points with a personal best time of 10.81. Congratulations to George Spencer.
And that's going to change our overall ranking slightly now with 2 disciplines finished. Let's take a look at how that affects that.
And this is mightily close.
Oh, yeah. Glenn Pendleton atop there with 2 really good, steady results. Thompson in second, George Spencer nicely placed in third, Graham Turner in fourth, and Rob Chatley in fifth place. So anything can happen among the top 5 guys, and there's still space for the guys in the top 8 to actually make an effect as the next disciplines come along. And we will be moving on to the standing block chop next. So this is a really fun one here.
Troy, I wanted to ask you because, you know, seeing big improvements from our athletes, loads of personal bests, tumbling and falling. How do we rank as an international force, Great Britain, against, you know, some of the heavyweights?
Well, that's a tough question because timber sports actually initiated very early on in Great Britain and places like Australia and New Zealand. So, I mean, you can definitely say among the top-ranked nations in the world, Great Britain is right up there. They're always in the mix. They're always making it difficult on the other athletes. It's just the small things like we've been talking about all day, minor changes that are going to make the steps and improvements. And guys like Glenn Pendleton and George Spencer are going to be the ones that are going to drag the rest of them kicking and screaming into the next level of professionalism in steel timber sports.
Yeah, we're hoping it's athletes like Glenn and George that can propel us on the international stage. This autumn, over in Stuttgart, the home of timber sports,
yes,
the World Championships is going home. Let's take a look at what's in store.
Herzlich willkommen, Stuttgart!
A new world record from Sterling Hart. To celebrate the 90th anniversary, STIHL has brought the Steel Timber Sports World Championship back to Stuttgart.
All right, so that's going to be exciting in Stuttgart. It's always a good time in that area of the world for sports, timber sports in particular, because that is the home of STIHL.
Now we've got another classic timber sport on this very stage here in Malvern, Worcestershire for the next instalment of our Great British Championship. It's the standing block chop. What can we expect from this, Troy?
A lot of tension, I'm telling you. This is a very difficult discipline to become good at. Athletes will generally learn underhand chop with the axe first before going to the standing block chop. And we're going to find out a little bit more about the standing block and this discipline right now. Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 30 centimeters has to be cut through both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result.
Athletes are ready. This is the start list for the standing block chop. We've got 6 heats, our 12 athletes all back in the mix. John Tunstall is in heat 1 up against Martin Price. Then we follow right the way through, so each and every athlete will take to the stand. Here we go.
And there you see our 4 standing block chop stands ready to go. And again, John Tunstall going up against Martin Price in that first heat. These guys are seemingly head-to-head all day long today. The question is, how will both of these guys, after having 2 disciplines under their belts, react in the 3rd discipline?
Yeah.
We also should mention this is the final discipline of round 1. We will eliminate 4 athletes from the list as they head into round 2. We have to get through this final and 3rd and final discipline here in this round in order to make sure we have our points allotted for each of these guys.
Yeah, Martin Price, the farmer from Powys in Wales. This is his preferred event, the standing block chop, looking to make a big impression here, looking to stay in the game.
Gentlemen, athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start there from Tunstall. Nice big chips coming out for Martin Price as well. Yeah, you can see this is his favorite discipline. He's got some really accurate drivers there as he shifts over to the other side of his block fairly quickly. Tunstall right there with him, I believe. He's already on his 2nd side of the block. I'm not 100% sure there because we only had the picture from Martin Price. And Martin looking like he might be close to getting through there. That block is wiggling on the stand. Let's see if he can get through there quickly. Time coming in on 40 seconds. No, excuse me, Tunstall was not over there. And Martin Price drops it in 39.23. Tunstall now working on the second side of his block. The timer stopped, so that will still be going on the backup timer in our competition control center. We also have a timeout that will be considered here, but Tunstall still working on the second side of his block.
He's against the clock as well now, Troy.
He is against the clock now as well, and you can see he's tired, and the effort that he's put in the first two disciplines is starting to affect how the accuracy is in this third discipline here, as he's cutting straight in on a lot of these hits. Now he's getting close to dropping the block. One more driver should do it. Oh, it's going to be two. Yeah, there he goes. He's got himself a time in the blocks here. Hopefully, yeah, 1:27.64. Oh boy, he came close to being at the DQ limit of the time there. Well done to get through and get a time on the board, though.
And that has to be pleasing for John Tunstall. He's...
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Yeah, John's first points of the day. Martin, can he stay in the competition with a very impressive standing block chop? Let's take a look at the replays, Troy. Great technique from both the athletes. With the beautiful backdrop of the Malvern Hills here in Worcestershire.
Yeah, you can see those cuts from Martin were really nice and accurate, and this is something that these guys will work a lot on to make sure that their accuracy is very good, because as I was saying earlier with the underhand chop, it's the same for the standing block chop. The more accurate you are, the faster your cuts are, because you're cutting into the same line and you're not cutting new materials every single time. That was a nice final driver there for Martin, well done. And we see in the background John working hard on the second side of his block, and his aim at that point was just to get through there without getting a DQ for time out. So yeah, good job by both those guys.
Moving on with Heat 2, Dan Whelan and Gavin Thompson.
Couple of handsome fellas there.
I'm sure they'll be the first to say it's not just about the looks.
I mean, both of these gentlemen are quite big. Gavin, fairly tall man, so in theory, he can use that to his advantage by stepping back from the block and getting a little bit more power into the drivers on the block. But he's got to be clean with each of those drivers. So far today, we've seen that Gavin is definitely a skilled competitor.
Okay, gentlemen.
In the underhand chop, he was in fifth place.
Stand
Stock
to
saw,
your
he was
timber.
second in standing block chop.
3,
Let's see where
2,
he ends up.
1, go!
So Gavin Thompson on the right, Dan Whelan on the left. Interesting, Gavin's not using as much of that tall frame of his to put as much power into those drivers as he could. Still seems to be working it well though. Dan Whelan there, just getting a lot of power into it, and Gavin Thompson's already moved over to the other side of his block. Now he's using a lot of his upper body, but his drivers are quick and frequent. Pretty accurate, more or less. Nice clean cuts there from him, and a personal best 32.85 for the Irishman. Very well done. Dan Whelan still working on his second side here, as he's got some nice big chips flying, making the adjustments to try and get a clean cutout and get some more material out of the way there. He's got lots of friends and family in the audience here. We can hear them screaming and cheering him on as he's trying to get through there. He's got another 20 seconds to make it happen. He should have no problem with that. A bit of a sticky axe right there as he's getting close. You can see that top block start to wiggle and waggle. One more should do it. And there it is. Sends it out into left field with a nice final driver. And he'll take that as a personal day, best any day of the week, and start to make improvements on that the next time he hits the practice session.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, Gavin Thompson now is interesting because I saw him come up on stage and I said he's a tall man. He can use that frame of his for a wide stance, but he didn't take a very wide stance, but he was using that upper body. He's got a ton of power, clearly, as he was just hammering away on that block. Now, Dan, he was a little bit farther back from the block. You can see he's dumping into it by bending his legs, turning his hips, and really putting power into the axe. So the technique is there. He needs to work on the power and the activity and the action with the angle of the saw, with the angle of the axe to really get some clean cuts. And here you can see some really nice clean lines by Gavin. Nicely done to block it up and get himself the top score of the day so far in standing block chop. And here's that final driver, and you can see the power was there for that one as that block went spinning.
Troy, we've talked before about the physique of the modern timber sports athlete. You don't have to necessarily be, you know, tall and big and thick set. It's all body types nowadays.
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot more of the physicality changing from just power drivers and guys that are just coming on stage and just hammering the heck out of the blocks to, you know, really accurate, really clean, really technical cuts and sawing. And for that matter, you don't need to be a massive dude. You can be strong, you can be lithe, you can be flexible and still have the power with those nice clean cuts. So you'll see the best in the world are generally having really clean cuts. Even if they're a big or a smaller guy, the clean cuts is where it's at, especially in the axe disciplines. In the sawing disciplines, it's a different set of circumstances, but you still need to be clean, you need to be flowing, and everything needs to just come together all at once. And the tendency and the trend at the moment is going towards more fitness-based athletes instead of just power-based athletes.
Now, next up, sustainability is something STIHL as an organisation take extremely seriously. Let's have a look at how we manage our wood.
We as STIHL Timbersports pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested and recycled to minimise the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this popular wood is grown on certified plantations. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. After all our STIHL competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. We quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests.
Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees, or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
This is where the screw gets turned now. We could see 12 athletes go, reduced to 8. And on the stand, we have the great British record holder from 2016 in this discipline, Rob Chatley, going up against Osh Williams.
Yeah, Rob Chatley is a master with the axe in hand as he comes up onto the stage here. And this is really a determining factor in this third and final discipline of round one, because that is where we're going to see how many of the guys from the first round make it into the second round. We're only taking 8 athletes into the second round, so we will eliminate 4 athletes from the running here after the standing block chop is done. And Rob definitely wants to be one of those guys. And at this point, it's looking pretty good for him. Gavin Thompson atop the leaderboard for the moment with Glenn Penlington and Martin Price, George Spencer in 2, 3, and 4, and Dan Whelan in 5th.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
2 different types of hitters here. Rob Chatley, big power drivers, really particular about his axe choice for each of these disciplines. And meanwhile, Osh Williams, wow, he's got a lot of power, but he had a massively sticky axe there that took him a while to get out, so that caused him a couple of seconds. Osh looking good, though, as another sticky axe for him, and Rob Chatley's already over to the other side of his block with an unbelievable time. 22-14 for Rob Chatley. And you can see the orange number 2 on the side there. That means he's second place in the overall standings and first in standing block chop. Osh Williams still working through on his second side of the block now. It's wiggling a little bit. He's got the power, is going to put through here. A couple more drivers should do it to get him through there. Getting some more material. That's a real loose block, and it goes down for Osh Williams at 48-13.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So good job by Rob Chatley and Osh Williams to get through there with 2 safe times.
Yeah. Rob's had a couple of years away from timber sports, but it's like he's never been away with that kind of form.
I mean, he's been obviously staying in shape, but, you know, going away to be a dad, that'll keep you fit as well.
It'll certainly keep you on your toes.
Most definitely. You can see here, a
Look
quick
at that.
change by him to the other side. And there's that one sticky axe by Osh that really caused him problems, and he had to dig it out. It took him a while. And Rob just absolutely murdering that block there. Nicely done. You can see Osh putting everything into those last drivers. All right, here we go.
Yeah, heat 4, Graham Turner, the Scotsman, up on the stand with the Welshman Terry Hoff.
And the tail of the tape, these two guys are pretty well matched up. Terry's personal best 32.55, Graham's 36.61. Graham has been cutting well this weekend, so let's see how he does on standing today, because he is a very, very strong man. Even though I call him little guy, he is incredibly powerful. Terry Hoff, a live competitor. You don't want to underestimate a man like him at all as he steps out on the stage and gets ready for the standing block.
Terry's a bit of a fitness freak. He's a keen swimmer. He's spent 30 years as a firefighter.
Athletes, ready.
That'll keep you fit any day of the
Stand
week.
to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start. Terry Hoff getting in there with quick blows. You can see Terry just giving it everything he's got there. He's got power. He's got the accuracy. Graham Turner onto the other side of his block now. These guys working hard to get through there quickly. Graham was actually faster to the second side of his block than Terry was, and it looked like it might be close between them. It's Graham Turner with a personal best, 24.09. Well done, young man, as he's got himself another personal best in the books this weekend. Terry Hoff, and he gets through into 33.66. An acceptable time, and that's a great time by Graham Turner, though. That puts him into second in the overall standings and second in standing block chop, and that's exactly where he wants to be at the moment. That means he's safe into the next round with 2 more heats to go.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Graham has cited this event, the standing block chop, as one of his preferred events, and it's clear to see why. With a performance like that, let's have a look at the replays here, Troy. He was getting into that, and Terry as well, like great times, great techniques, cutting through the wood like butter.
Yeah, really well done. The thing that was surprising for me, though, is that Terry has changed his driver style a little bit, and he was much faster with the frequency of his hits, which I really like to see. Now, Graham going for those big power hits on his block, and you know, you just can't defend against that when you've got as much power as Graham does in his arms and upper body. And there, the final 2 drivers by Terry Hoff. Just a fantastic effort.
So, 8 athletes. You've seen 4 more to come. Rob Chatley, he's piling on the points here today. 12 of your finest from the standing block chop so far, with 4 athletes to come, don't forget. But we are going to be whittling down to 8 athletes in the next discipline. Graham Turner, he's got 11 so far. And yeah, it's all to play for, Troy. This is on a knife edge.
Yeah, we do have 2 more heats to go, including Glenn Pendleton and Tom Redmond, John Lewis and George Spencer. So all of these guys really, really good with the axe in hand for the standing block chop in particular. Big John Lewis is great in this discipline, and so is Glenn Pendleton. So we'll see how this changes the overall standings. At this moment in time, though, Graham Turner is pretty safe in second place. Even if he gets pushed down 4 spots, he's still going to be in the next round. So that's important for him. And the last 2 heats coming up here will determine who will actually be in that final round. And then it's going to get exciting as we move into round 2 with 8 athletes and our next sets of disciplines. But first, 2 more to go here in standing block.
Yeah, and the heats and the disciplines will keep on coming here in Malvern, Worcestershire. But right now, we're going to see some short commercial messages. We'll see you very shortly.
Get your garden ready with premium quality cordless tools by STIHL.
And the next heat is with us, Heat 5, the standing block chop. George Spencer and our reigning British champion, Glenn Pendleton.
This should be a good battle. George has been cutting well this weekend. We always know Glenn is a solid, stable competitor. He's also been cutting well this weekend in the demos. So let's see. It might be between these 2 guys coming down to the luck of the draw on the block. It should be a good battle between these 2. Very, very good competitors. As I mentioned, George just in his second year as a professional. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe he jumped out of the rookies and started to immediately make an impact as a pro.
Yeah, he was second place finish in the British rookies in 2021.
Ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start, a bit sticky for both of these guys actually, and then George just gets into the frequency of his hits. Glenn doing the same thing on the far side. Ooh, this is going to be a tight one between these 2 as they both go over to the second side of their blocks, and maybe George a half stroke ahead of Glenn, but you can see Glenn using the entire length of that axe for the swings. Those are just fantastic drivers by Glenn, and he should be through any second now, and he's done it for a personal best 24:35. George Spencer a little bit slower on the second side. Maybe he went around the corner too soon, and he's cutting through to try and get that block off, and it should be any second now for George, and that is a 37:68 for George Spencer. He definitely wanted more out of that, but he cut well today.
There's no danger of both these boys not making the final 8. But it's the points you want now. It's the points on the board. Set you apart from your competitors.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So we will for sure see Glenn Pendleton and George Spencer moving into the next round. Glenn moved up to the top of the rankings in the overall after that heat with 1 more heat to go. George Spencer currently sitting in 5th. So even if he does get pushed down by 2 better times by our next athletes, he will be in the next round. So, and we can see here, these guys just really giving it everything they've got. The view between the eyes of the log for Glenn, and over to the other side for George and Glenn at the same time. And here, George was a half stroke ahead, and he might have overthought the transition time and realized he's on stage with Glenn and maybe wanted to have that pressure. And right here, you could see just 1 driver that he thought was going to do it. He hung on for dear life and managed to get it through in our next heat in the blocks and ready to go.
Yeah, Tom Redmond and Johnny Lewis. Tom making waves as he recently joined our professional circuit. Johnny, he's been around the block, but he's always in the mix. Do not rule out Johnny Lewis for a podium finish today.
Not at all. And this is the discipline where he's incredibly strong.
I'll be surprised if that wood remains on the stand with the power that Johnny Lewis exudes.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Tom Redmond close on your screen here, and there's Johnny Lewis Both of them getting right into it with some heavy drivers.
We've got a stage that's shaking right now.
Ooh, Johnny Lewis over to the other side. He was very shallow on his first cuts, going wide on these ones, and Tom Redmond over to the other side of his block now, as both of them working their way through that block as we get to the 25-second mark. Tom Redmond's got it, 28:39. 28:51, excuse me. Johnny Lewis in 28:39. Those are close.
I've got to see the replay on that one.
Nice times, no matter how you look at it.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So Johnny Lewis was just a hair faster after the correction, 28:15 to 28:25, but those are minuscule times between those two gentlemen as we take a look back at the slow-mo replays. Now, interesting situation here with Johnny Lewis. His first side, he had some very narrow cuts. It was almost like an eye line, and then he switched over to the other side and started going with those big, wider open cuts. And you can see for Tom's, he had big, wider open cuts on the first side. However you cut it, it works for you. And look at how close that was between those two guys. That was an unbelievable heat.
Yeah, you saw just how close that finish was in that final heat of the standing block chop. And let's see where the points have gone. Another 12-point finish for Rob Chatley. That's 2 top positions out of 3 events, and it's the stock saw that's dragged him down a little bit, which we'll see in the overall rankings. But Graham Turner, really, really strong, and he's got 11 points of PB, along with Glenn Penlington, another personal best. Love seeing these PBs across this board.
Yeah,
Glenn
that's
takes
fantastic.
10 points away from this one, and Johnny Lewis, we saw the strength and power. He's taken 9, closely followed by Tom Redmond with 8. Let's have a look at the overall rankings right now, and don't forget we do lose 4 competitors. The bottom 4 will lose, sadly, after some top performances, some maiden voyages into Timber Sports Championships with us here. But right now you can see Gavin Thompson, our guest from Ireland, he is well and truly in the mix, 26 points in 4th place. Rob Chatley, a former British champ, 27 points. Runner-up last year, he's in 2nd place right now, knocking on the door, 28 points, it's Graham Turner. And top of the tree, as we stand, 31 points, our reigning champ, Glenn Penlington.
So it's only 3 points that are separating the top 2 guys at the moment. We do have the second round coming up where only 8 athletes will move on to the next round, and they will compete in the single buck, so the long single person saw, and the springboard, which is a very difficult discipline. And we'll take a look here at how round 1 paced out and who is moving on to round 2. So we're just waiting for the standing block chop placements to come in, and there you see them coming in and how the overall rankings, which you just saw, look. And now we'll take a look at how that changes things as Price, Hoff, Whelan, and Tunstall will unfortunately be eliminated. So Martin Price, Terry Hoff, Dan Whelan, and John Tunstall will be out of the competition for the remainder of the day. And those top 8 guys will move on to round 2, where we get into business with the single buck shortly.
Yeah, so the action is going to be heated up, ramped up once more with our next discipline for the STIHL Great British Pro Championships. It's the single buck, this specially made saw, 2 meters long. It's the Misery Whip. It's ready to go. Let's see what it's all about.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around €1,500.
single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
All right, this is a single buck, the misery whip, Troy.
Yes. Is it ever?
Perversely, this is some of our athletes' top discipline. I don't know why. When we see it in action, it's just it's a sight to behold, but
it is.
It's not something I ever fancy trying my hand at. Anyway, two gentlemen who will be trying their hand right now, Osh Williams and Johnny Lewis.
So that's our first heat lineup. These are a couple of guys that are pretty well versed in the single buck, the misery whip in particular. John Lewis, his personal best of 21 and change. And there we see Osh Williams setting his saw in the line. Now what they'll do here is they'll set the saw. Some of the guys, like what we're seeing Osh do, turn it upside down. They'll use it to slide it back and forth in that preset line to clear out any of the excess sawdust and chips, and then make sure that their couple of practice strokes aren't actually making a cut. And you can see how precise the setup is for John Lewis here. He knows exactly where he wants it to sit.
Troy, you mentioned to me previously with this thing that dancing skills come in handy.
Yeah, you got to be able to use your hips in this one. You push off that back leg, twist your hips, use the power of the core, and you know, it's not just about pushing back and forth with your arms. If you do that, you'll just spend yourself silly, and you'll have zero efficiency. Now, if you've got a really good single buck sawyer on stage, you'll see him with a good stance like you see John Lewis have. Watch this one between these two gentlemen.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So right away, Osh Williams gets that saw moving, and he's trying to be as efficient as possible by using the entire length of that 2-meter saw. A little small hookup. John Williams on the backside has a bit of a steeper angle as he's a taller man, and so he's trying to ramp it down, but he also got hooked up on the pullback through, and it looks like we might see Osh Williams get this one a little bit faster than John Lewis, although Osh did get hooked up. It's going to be close at the end. Oh my goodness, 26.84 to a 26.80. Osh Williams has himself a very good personal best right there. So that was a nice run by both of them. A couple of hookups, a couple of angle changes that got those 10-centimeter long teeth stopping the blade from moving. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why they call it the misery whip. It's miserable to restart that thing once it does stop. But very, very nice job by Osh Williams and John Lewis on the first discipline in round number 2, the single buck. Look at those teeth on that saw. Those are just dastardly looking.
Yeah, I won't fancy taking those to my local dentist.
No doubt about it. So Osh Williams, fantastic to see him get a personal best there.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Well, so far the British Championship has not disappointed. There's been quite a few personal bests. There's been some great action. We've had ourselves some DQs, which we don't obviously want to see, but they do happen in competition. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Speaking of cookies, these two guys trying to get a nice clean one off of this single buck here, and both did quite a good job.
It's just incredible to see the finish times as well, Troy.
Yeah.
Just how close they were. I can't believe it.
Well, it's interesting to note, too, that both of them, Osh and John, were surprisingly using more upper body strength for the cuts than they were using their lower body. And I think by virtue of John just being such a powerful man, it works for him. But somebody that's a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit shorter, will have to put to use their entire body and in order to be able to keep up with a guy as powerful as John. Speaking of shorter, we've got George Spencer here, who had a really fantastic time in one of our shows, and it was by virtue of some really, really good technique, and he's going up against Tom Redmond in this one.
Yeah, and this is one of those events that Tom Redmond has said is a preferred event for him. I don't know why.
Yeah, each guy has their own love-hate affair with the different disciplines here. I know that there are a lot of guys that have a love-hate with the hot saw. They love to do the hot saw, but the hot saw hates them. So we'll see that later on. There's Tom Redmond lining up his saw. And you can see how long that saw is, 2 meters long, 10 centimeter sweeper and cutter teeth there. And you can see just dragging it back and forth gently through the block, it's cutting it quickly.
And what's the measurement that Andy's making there with?
Well, they want to make sure that those saws are both set to exactly the same depth for the start. Not that one guy has an advantage of a ½ centimeter to 2 centimeters more on the start. So that's what that metal bar was that we saw Andy Hall put on there to check the depth of the saw and to make sure that it's fair for both competitors. All right, here we go.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Tom Redmond, beautiful start by him. He's got that whole saw working immediately. And look how efficient and clean he is with his cuts. Stepping back on that bag, pushing through the hips. George Spencer, he's a little bit faster with his strokes, but also a very good technique. And that is a national record for Tom Redmond, 14.96, a personal best for George Spencer with a 2023. Both of these guys cutting fantastic single bucks here. But Tom Redmond, absolutely amazing. Get right off the hop with the entire saw working. And that's a big advantage for Mr. Redmond with 16 points in the bucket and a national record.
Both cuts are good.
Very nicely done.
And that totally vindicates why Tom says it's his favorite event,
There
Troy,
you
right
go,
there.
huh?
He's been
Well,
practicing.
He's been practicing, and he's obviously excellent at it. But look at this. He pulled that saw back and started going knuckles to tip right from the get-go. George was quicker with his cuts back and forth, but wasn't using the entire length of the saw. Both of these gentlemen on stage pushing off that back leg, drifting it through the hips up into the upper body and shoulders. So really, really nice technique from both of them. But really, Tom Redmond, he just put on a clinic there on how to cut single buck. All right, up next, Gavin Thompson up against Rob Chatley.
So we already know Rob has posted first place finishes in 2 of our 3 disciplines so far. So he is going to be attacking this with vigor.
He did hold the national record for single buck in 2015 at the British Championships of 15:53. Just checking my records book here. So there's potential for Rob in this one. Gavin Thompson has been a real breath of fresh air out there, an absolutely spectacular competitor as a guest competitor here for the event. So Gavin will reset to his favorite position after doing a quick clear out. And there's what I was talking about, saw upside down, quick clear out, and then he'll set that saw in position. Rob Chatley on stand 2, screen right.
Yeah, we know Gavin's brought
Okay,
lots of
gentlemen.
support with him from Ireland.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Ooh, hook up by Rob right off the get-go. He opts for a couple of quick starter cuts to get that saw moving and trying to really get it moving. And he has it moving with a serious amount of speed. Gavin Thompson logging in at longer stroke, but Rob Chatley, a personal best, 16.99. And Gavin Thompson, an Irish national record there with 23.75. So he is doing well for Ireland today. That's 2 national records for them already on the competition day. Very well done.
After a sticky start for Rob, he turned that right around. The superb time. It's over to Judge Andy Hall.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, Rob Chatley with a 16.83 and Gavin Thompson with a very nice 25.32, a national record for Ireland. And Tom Redmond with the national record earlier on for Great Britain. And we have also 3 personal bests in the mix there too. And as I said, and as you said as well, it was a sticky start for Rob right off the hop, but then he got that saw moving and really he just attacked it with so much power. Gavin Thompson using a good amount of the length of his saw. Good final push through by Rob, taking a little time, a bit of a shake of the head, but can't be too upset with that time. That puts him in second place at the moment in the single buck rankings.
Yeah, heat 4. We've just seen the national record fall, and it was previously held by the man on the right, Glenn Penlington, whose time of 7.13 posted here last year has just tumbled, and hot on his heels will be Graham Turner from Scotland. So it's Graham who makes his way over to the left-hand side of the stage as you look at it, and that's Glenn over to the right.
Both of these guys opting to wear spiked shoes, and you can see them removing the flippers there, just to make sure that they get a goodly amount of grip on that floor. And there are those spike shoes from Glenn Penlington. Glenn, the only athlete cutting the opposite way around here. So back-to-back battle.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Glenn, good start using the entire length of that saw, tucking his elbow in at each drawback, making sure he's got a good clean cut. Graham Turner doing much the same. Graham looking like he's going to have a good time here. He's getting close to the bottom of his cut. It's going to be good for both of these guys. Oh my goodness. Look at that. 16.94 for Graham Turner and 16.77 for Glenn Penlington. And those are 2 fantastic times. And Graham Turner has just been improving from event to event, discipline to discipline. So it's been an amazing run for him today. And as always, Glenn Penlington super solid with a 16.77 there. Graham Turner with an adjustment in the time now sits in 3rd place in single buck, Glenn in 2nd, and Tom Redmond atop the single buck rankings in 1st. And we'll take a look back at the slow-mo shortly here.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So again, a couple of personal bests hitting the deck there for Graham Turner and Glenn Penlington. Like to see that as always. We'll take a look back at the slow-mos here. And yeah, Glenn was just a little bit quicker on the start and got that saw into full swing right away. You could see he was just putting everything into it, breathing out on each stroke out. Graham started off a little bit slower, but his cuts through the middle were so good using the entire length of that saw. And they both dropped the cookies at around the same time. They were so close together on that. That's how evenly matched these guys are, Alex. It's unbelievable.
It's insane, these finishes here, even in slow-mo, so close. All right, the single buck, you've just seen the culmination of this event. So we're down to 8 athletes. Let's see how we've got the points distributed. Rob Chatley in 4th place with this one, 10 points for him, well in the mix also. Graham Turner, 12 points for Graham. 14 points this time. It's the points have swelled. We can dish out more as the events come to the climax. Glenn Penlington takes those 14 and 16 points with a new national record of a time of 14.66. Tom Redmond. So let's see how that affects the overall rankings now with our dynamic graphic. Osh Williams, 8th place, 20 points. Johnny Lewis, 7th place, 6th place, George Spencer, who has 32 points, along with our 5th place athlete, Gavin Thompson. 4th place, Rob Chatley, 37 points. 3rd place, 38 points, Tom Redmond. 2nd place, Graham Turner, 40 points. And top of our overall standings, Glenn Penlington, 45 points.
All right, so we've seen fantastic action up to this point here. Now, you asked me earlier on about where Great Britain stands with respect to the other nations in the world. Well, we have a perfect example of where they stand. At the World Championships last year in the team competition, Great Britain had a nail-biter against France, and we want to show you that first before we bring in a studio guest.
Yeah, this has gone down in British timber sports folklore. Let's have a look.
Go!
All right, gentlemen, and the winner is Great Britain.
That's just how close things can get. And we've seen it already on this stage today, how fine those margins are between victory. I'm joined right now, I'm delighted to be joined by our Great British Rookie Champion of 2022, Jack Morris. Thanks for joining us, Jack. You were there in Gothenburg last year as part of the British team, pretty much as an invitational brief. Talk us through your experiences of what that happened there that time.
It was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable experience to be there with the team in front of all them people. It was just incredible.
And you saw our team there being put to the test by France. How was the rivalry on the night between the British and the French?
Because they went up with them before, they knew they could beat them the next time around, and that's exactly what they did.
Now, this time last week, you were over in Rotterdam representing Great Britain as a rookie in the World Championships, the Rookie World Championships. Talk us through your experiences there and what you've learned and how you gave an account of yourself.
It was another incredible experience to be there with the best in the world. It was just unbelievable.
And you're going in the Rookie Championships tomorrow here on this very stage. Have you been training well? How's it been going?
Yeah, because I was training for the Worlds as well. I'm ready to rock and roll, really.
Excellent. We wish you all the very best for tomorrow, Jack. Stay with us now because the rest and the culmination of this British Pro Championships is coming to a climax. Troy, what have we got next?
Coming up next is the cat's meow discipline, the finicky discipline, the discipline where you need to have everything in line, and that is the springboard. But before that, we're going to show you a really quick thing, what to look for and what to expect at the World Championships coming up in the end of the season.
It comes down to Mitch Argent and Shane Jordan battling hard on the standing block. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Australia or New Zealand? Oh my God, how close is this? And it's Australia!
The atmosphere last night and the team's relay was unreal.
That is their title of Team World Champion.
Oh, definitely. It'd be the noisiest crowd I've competed against.
Shane Jordan's already over there.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of getting goosebumps thinking about it right now.
The crowds here, they were just erupting.
You feel the energy of the crowd.
My goodness, what a great comeback from Belgium with a time of 1.
The crowd was absolutely electric.
And it was so much noise and support.
Ja, doch, das pusht schon rum und mein Fanclub ist auch da.
Very passionate about their country and, yeah, the competitors.
Yeah, it feels super.
Oh my goodness, look at this.
It's pretty awesome to compete in front of a crowd like this.
But he's not giving up. He's looking good.
Like such an adrenaline rush. It's an amazing feeling.
They make a lot of noise, and that's good for our spirit.
Is it going to be the Checker Building? And the crowd goes bananas.
It's absolutely extrem hier. Man hört.
Troy, we saw some of the epic highlights from Prague just there, just how those international tournaments can blow up and go off. Now, you've worked at plenty of those, and there's another one on the horizon. This November, Timbersports is coming home to Stuttgart.
Yeah, that was my fault. I called the World Championship teaser beforehand, but it was actually a look back at Prague and the vibe and the actual atmosphere there. It was fantastic. But yes, indeed, we do have the World Championship coming up in Stuttgart. This time, let's take a look at the teaser for that event for real.
Herzlich willkommen, Stuttgart!
A new world record for Sterling Hart. To celebrate the 90th anniversary, STIHL has brought the STIHL Timbersports World Championship back to Stuttgart.
So everyone concerned with STIHL Timbersports is looking forward to going back to where it all began, Stuttgart 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic event. It also, there was a sign up, get your tickets now. Sorry, folks, both days at the arena are completely sold out, so you're going to have to check it out on the live stream. Speaking of live streams, we've got a ton of action. Our season has just started, and we have a ton of action still to come over the season. We'll show you really quickly what live streams are coming up and which ones you can watch on demand right now. Let's have a look at that. And we don't have the graphics for that? Okay, well then coming up shortly, we still have the live stream from today. Next weekend, we have the live stream from the French National Championship. And of course, we'll have a live stream for the World Championships in Stuttgart. And in between, there's plenty to find out. You can also find out more by checking out STIHLTimbersports.com and looking for upcoming events there. And you can also find out lots of athlete information there too.
Troy, our next discipline that we'll see on this very stage is an absolute leveler, the springboard.
Yes.
It's up, it's get on top, it's get that block chopped. And you witnessed firsthand the incredible world record set by one of your fellow countrymen in this discipline.
I mean, he had an incredibly fast time. I think that really the situation couldn't have been much more perfect for Sterling at that event in 2016, and you'll get to see a little bit later on. But he had an absolutely amazing time. He crawled up that block and bit the top off more than chopped it. It was an incredible run. And, you know, we're going to see guys here that they're going to be fighting to try and get up there. The big key for the springboard, though, is to make sure you get those boards in place, the pockets cut quickly. Optimal situation, 3-4 cut pocket, board in, up. 3-4 cut pocket, board in, up, and then start working the top block. The more time that you spend cutting a pocket, the more time it takes away from the amount that you have to cut that top block off of the and get your final time. So it's going to be a really tricky discipline. You have to have so many things at play here, and plus, it's one of the more dangerous disciplines. If something should go awry up top and you fall down from 2 meters with a sharp axe in hand, you could be in real trouble.
And is it fair to say, Troy, that this event doesn't necessarily suit the bigger gentlemen?
On one side, yes, but we've seen some very, very big men who have cat-like abilities getting up onto those boards. And if you set the board properly, it doesn't matter what size you are, it's going to hold you in place really well. So, you know, there is an advantage to being small on the boards, but then there's that disadvantage once you get up top and the power just isn't there for cutting. So it's a little bit of a balancing act there.
Okay, well, it's one of the most exciting timber sports you're likely to see here with us in Malvern, Worcestershire for our 2023 Great British Championships. We're drawing towards the end. Of course, it's the springboard. We've got the stock saw to come as well, Troy.
Hot saw.
Hot saw,
Hot saw.
I'm getting too excited. I'm just getting the events all over the show. But yeah, the hot saw, pretty much like lifting up a go-kart and going for it.
More or less, yeah, that's exactly right. Are we going to get to see a little bit about this discipline coming up here? I hope so, because there's a great explanation for the tool and discipline here for springboard.
Springboard. Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27-centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible.
Yeah, so we are ready with the next discipline, the springboard, here at Malvern, Worcestershire. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, let's have a look at the start list for this discipline right now. We have 4 heats, so we're down to 8 athletes. We're going to lose a couple more, but let's see who's in heat 1. Os Williams and Johnny Lewis. And then heat 2 will be Tom Redmond and George Spencer. Then we have Gavin Thompson in heat 3 with Rob Chatley on the stage. And then the final heat, heat 4, will be Graham Turner and the reigning British champion, Glenn Penlington.
Yeah, I mean, they're just working hard on the stage behind us to get the first 4 stands set up. There will be 2 heats, and then we'll have a short break back here with us, and then they'll set up the remaining 2 heats. Now, remember, we have 8 athletes that are going to be competing here, and we will then, after this final discipline in round 2, eliminate 2 additional athletes, and we will go on to the hot saw. Now, this particular discipline is very important to do well in, and you don't want to overpressurize yourself and get a little bit too wild up top, but you also want to make sure you're efficient with your pockets and getting up onto those boards, making sure that your second board is the more important board, has a good angle so that you can step back out onto the back of the board and really use your entire hip and core muscles and your upper body to cut that block properly at the top. Because if you have a saggy board, you tend to step forward on the board, you choke up on the axe, and you're not hitting with as much power as you could hit with. So this is a really important discipline for these guys because there's a lot of points up for stakes if you get a good time, and it can also really damage your chances of making it into the final round at hot saw. So it's a tough one. It's a very finicky discipline, this one here, and you've got to be on top of your game for it.
Yeah, now there's great camaraderie between all our British athletes backstage, but as far as the final preparations go, as we enter the final straight, Troy, what's going through their minds and what processes are they going through?
I mean, particularly in this discipline, they're thinking about making sure they've got everything on points. Like I said, for their first cuts and setting their boards and so on, they're thinking about where their points are currently, what they can potentially get, what they realistically going to get in the springboard, so that when they move into the hot saw, if they have a good cut and they have a good time, they could potentially jump up drastically, because they do call the hot saw the make or break discipline. So it can make an athlete's day, or it can break their spirit on the day. It is that difficult with this big monster saw. But before we get there, we have to get these guys 2 meters up off the ground and cutting a block off the top of that tree.
And do we jump up the amount of points available to the athletes as well now?
Correct. So we're at 16 points for a win here at the highest level, and it goes all the way down to 2 points in position number 8. So it's a 2-point gap for each of these guys as we move down the list. And then, of course, 18 points in the hot saw is up for grabs if you have the fastest time. So really managing yourself through this whole situation is so important for these guys, but maintaining a good level. And we've seen that with, with Glenn Pendleton, who's so good at that. He's super consistent. And, Graham is right there with him in second place in the overall standing. So these two guys are at it once again for that top spot on the podium.
Yeah, so let's take a look now. We are ready to go with this first heat in the springboard. All to play for. Osh Williams and Johnny Lewis.
John Lewis's personal best of 2:03.09 is just 27 or 26 seconds and change away from a possible disqualification because of running out of time. Now, we know that John's probably been putting in the effort to make sure that he has this really locked down. Osh Williams has wrapped his hand already because I think maybe he might have injured himself earlier on because I didn't see that wrap on his hand before. So let's just see how he manages on this springboard. Couple of big boys as well. You mentioned advantage, disadvantage. Here with John, it's going to be his experience that's going to play the biggest role for him to make sure that he gets that pocket cut quickly and cleanly, and he's got himself a solid stand to put himself up on and make sure that he can really go to work, because we know he's got power. He's just got to be able to use it.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
We've got athletes now in 8th and 7th place, respectively, so they need the points on the board.
Osh Williams with a 6-hit pocket to get that first board in place. John has himself, I think it was 8 or so to get up there, and now Osh is trying to get the axe out of the board, and then John's got himself a really nice first board, but like I said, this board doesn't matter. Osh is struggling on that second board. It's sagging, or on the first board, excuse me, it's sagging quite significantly there. As you can see, now he's just trying to make sure that he gets a good pocket for that second board. And you can see why this is the critical aspect for these guys, because if they don't feel good on that first board, like you're seeing with Osh Williams, he's got to go back down, reset that pocket. Now, John's board is quite excellent. That first board, if he can get that second board even remotely close to that good, then he'll be having no problems up top there. He's got himself a good pocket there, and now he just needs to feel the confidence of being able to get his back foot out there on that board, and he seems to have it. Osh Williams now has his first board in, but it's sagging badly. He's got to get that thing moving if he doesn't want to get over time here, struggling a little bit to try and get that second pocket complete. John Williams looking good on the top of his.
I mean, the physics of what we're seeing here is absolutely bonkers.
John Lewis, excuse me, I just called him John Williams. It's Osh Williams. Yeah, the physics is insane. I mean, you can see with John's board, he's got a really, really nice board. He's looking very good up there as we get past the 136 mark, and Osh has finally got his board up there. Now, Osh's second board is excellent, as that tooth seems to be biting nicely, but it is starting to sag slightly, so he's got to really start to work if he wants to make it inside the 2 minutes and 30-second mark. And this is a critical aspect to see who's going to make it into the next round and that hot saw.
I think this Malvern crowd are ready to push these athletes through.
Yeah, there's some great people in the audience here that are really supporting their guys, and John is just passing the 2 minute 10-second mark. He's going to have to switch over to that odd backside any second now if he wants to get it through. Osh Williams just getting some nice big slabs, but I don't know if he's got enough left after taking a long time to set those boards, and they do have to cut through from both sides. John at 2 minutes 28:29, and that is a DQ for both of these gentlemen for going over the time limit. That is a disappointing situation for both of these excellent athletes, and just not their day on springboard today as they're catching their breath up there, and will pass their axes down to our two judges, Andy Hall and Bart Janssen.
So much to think about, and it's unforgiving. Just look at that image there.
I mean, he is absolutely gutted, out of breath. He's had no luck on that one this time at all.
He'll still be smiling, though.
He'll still be smiling. He's just that kind of guy. He's just got to catch
Unfortunately,
his breath
both
so
competitors
that the muscles in his face start to work
exceeding
again.
the time limit.
Yeah, disappointing results for Osh and John. Unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And I mean, John had two really nice boards. Osh struggled on his boards, and we know that both of these guys in the standing block are very solid. And this is essentially what that is the standing block 2 meters up in the air. Osh did have a 6-hit pocket to start things off with, and then you see how that board was sagging. He just didn't have it to stay on the board anymore and had to jump down and reset the pocket. You can see very deep pocket for John, and that's exactly what happens there. On
Had to get closer in.
It started to sag, so he had to step forward, and he just doesn't have the power and the accuracy that close to the block. So unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out, and John Lewis was already working the top block as Osh was on to his second board, and here he just wasn't in deep enough, and that's when the time ran out.
All right, we move on now. Heat 2. It's Tom Redmond and George Spencer. Both looking relaxed, both looking confident.
As you said, Tom Redmond's been really making a name for himself in British timber sports. I mean, he's been flashed the way he's been performing, and for George, coming out of the rookie level and up into the pros the last 2 years, he's really also been stepping up his game. He's one of those guys that you can call the future of steel timber sports for Great Britain. So you can see there's a routine for each of these guys, where they're placing their springboards, where their axes, their backup axes are, how they set themselves up in readiness for getting up on these blocks.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Six-hit pocket for Tom, 6-hit pocket for George. As they're setting those first boards, George making a quick little house cleaning there as he gets onto that first board. Again, first board not as critical as the second board. Tom and George now both working to set those top pockets and make sure those are super clean. So you want to make sure those upper boards are stable as can be. Quick swipe of the hand for Tom as he gets up onto his second board, and that's looking like a really nice board. He's got a steep angle, so he can actually step way out on that back foot. It's not going out as far back as I imagine he could, and that tooth is really biting in nicely. George is up there. He's got himself a dead even flat board, looks solid, but he's got a sticky axe there on that first couple of drivers, so that's causing him problems. Tom Redmond, meanwhile, has got himself a couple of nice slabs coming off of that block. He's good and clean and hitting hard. So he's going to try and get through there as quickly as possible. Best time for Tom is 1:44. Will he be able to beat that and have another personal best today? George Spencer working hard on his block as well at the top. Some big slabs hanging on for dear life. He'd like to have those out of the way, and there it goes. George and Tom both working hard now on their top block. Both boards looking very good for these guys. No major sags or anything like that. There you see George making the adjustments to try and get that extra material out of the way. Good positioning, and Tom has moved over to the backside of his board. I don't think we're going to see a personal best time for Tom today, but he is right there, staying consistent, and that block should go down any second now. 1 or 2 more drivers should do it. Maybe 3. There we go. So Tom Redmond, a time of 1:54.55. And that is a taxing event that you've just seen right there. And I think Tom might have even lost his hat on the way up or down. Not sure. George is on the backside of his. He's got a few more seconds to go before he times out. So he's going to want to get a time in here for sure. He's got 10 more seconds to get that block off. He should be able to do it. He's pushing hard to get there, and he's got lots of support from friends and family here. Oh, it's going to be troublesome, and that is a DQ for George, unfortunately. That is a bummer. So time limit exceeded. He just, I think my opinion is he just didn't have enough material off that front side and opted to try and get around to the back side at that awkward angle a little bit too soon. So that's a DQ for George Spencer. Tom Redmond, not as fast this time, but he has a time in the books. And at the moment, he is at the top of the leaderboard with 3 DQs underneath him.
Okay, so we have a disqualification on stand 4 for exceeding the time. However, this curtain is good.
And that is a disappointing run for George, who was looking very good with the first pockets and his first board. And you see from Tom's perspective over there, and again, a 6 cut pocket for George. That is a very nice number of cuts to get a pocket set. Both of these guys were really accurate with their pockets as well. This bottom board for Tom was a little bit saggy, but that's not the end of the world. It was more about that second board, as we talk about. So you could see both of these guys just really working as hard as they possibly could. I mean, excellent boards. In this discipline, Alex, it comes down to confidence so often, and being confident enough to take that back foot and step out onto the back of the board. Both of these guys had nice even boards, and you could see both of them weren't using that board to its full potential there. So, I mean, it could have been a little bit faster, but, like, you know, who am I to talk, right?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the delight etched on Tom's face as he finished that event, and the exhaustion that we saw with Johnny Lewis and Tom himself here. Just look at this now, this last shot, that's it, done, it's in the bag.
That was one of those, thank the maker, it's finished. Yeah, and this was the difficult thing for George, because he was there. He was right there. It was maybe just a little angle change, and he was right there, and he would have had a time. But unfortunately, it just, you know, he heard the people screaming. He knew the time was running away, and he started to do panic hits that were just not powerful enough, and then it ran away on him. And unfortunately, we had a DQ for him, which is I'm gutted for all of the guys that got DQs, because they're such fantastic athletes. But this is a discipline that just draws everything out of you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see both of those athletes progress into the final event, the hot saw, which is hot on the horizon now. This time last year, we were delighted to bring the inaugural Women's Great British Championships to Malvern and to STIHL for the very first time. Let's take a look at the highlights from our female competitors in 2022. This is history in the making. Today, we'll crown our first ever STIHL Timbersports British Women's Champion. Hundreds of hours of training, determination, grit has led these athletes to this stage. This is their moment.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nerves are on edge, the crowd roaring, the lights are all on them. It all comes down to these women and the war.
Both girls are good!
They're all friends here, but they all want that inaugural top spot to secure their place in timber sport history. It all comes down to an underhand chop. This is epic, this is history, and the 2022 winner is Zoe Penlington.
I cannot believe I'm the first person to win the British Women's Championship. I really couldn't have done it without my family behind me, my dad and my brother training me. My mum is here in the crowd, she's just holding me together. And I just can't wait to go on to next year now and give it another go.
All right, we're joined by Zoe Penlington, who we just saw on camera a moment ago, and she immediately cringed and did this. Oh! How does that make you feel to be on camera like that and see yourself on camera? Is it weird?
It is weird, yeah. It's exciting though. It's good to see it up there and see the women in the UK competing. It's really good fun as well, and it's great to see it.
There you go.
Very cringeworthy though still.
Zoe, our first ever STIHL GB British champ of 2022. We were delighted for you, excited to see you up there. Just talking about the experiences as the trailblazers, as the flag bearers for women in this sport from last year.
It's so exciting. I mean, we got together only a few months really before the British Championship, and we all clicked together really well and just gelled, helped each other, and then we sort of spent the rest of the year competing together and really enjoyed it. And it's been amazing to see all the women come along so much and then introduce new women to the sport as well. It's been really great.
Exactly right. There should be no let-up now. And what's your advice to girls and women who want to try their hand at timber sports for, say, the first time?
Just get in touch with any of the women that are already doing it. They'll definitely point you in the right direction. Get in touch with STIHL Timbersports, Facebook, Instagram, or through their website. Definitely just reach out to anyone and ask the question, because it's a great community.
Yeah,
it really is.
You told me you're a bag of nerves, not necessarily for your own retention of the title tomorrow, but for your brother Glenn, who's up there now. Just talk us through your emotions.
Oh, it's so nerve-wracking. I'm honestly shaking watching it, but I think for me, he's so great. He supports me so much, and I think I want him to win more than I want myself to win, almost. He'll help anyone in the sport. He'll literally train anyone. He'll give them anything that they need. He's incredible, so I really, really want it for him.
I know two other people like that close to your heart. They've been to every single timber sports that I've been to as well, as your mum and your dad. And your dad is celebrating a special birthday today, so here's your opportunity to embarrass him again.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dad, 60 today. And honestly, they're amazing for us. They do so much for us. They follow us everywhere, support us so much. You know, around the world now even. So yeah, Dad's 60 today, and Mum will be, sorry Mum, but you're 59 tomorrow. So happy birthday to both.
Yeah, happy birthday for today, Bob. Happy birthday tomorrow, Caroline. Final question for you, Zoe. You know, we saw the first women's championship last year. What are you going to do, you and the girls, tomorrow to take it to the next level?
We just got to give it everything we've got, I think. It's back in the heat again. We had that last year, so at least we're used to it.
Can you handle the heat?
Just about, I think. Not so much for a ginger like me, but no, we'll give it everything, and we'll support each other, because that's really what this sport is about for me. So yeah, we'll wish everyone really good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, we do wish you all our girls, all our women tomorrow the very best of luck on this stage. Thank you so much for talking to us, our reigning British champ, Zoe Penlington. All right, we are moving on with our next heats, Heat 3. From Ireland, our guest, Gavin Thompson. He is going on the stand with Rob Chatley.
I'm interested to see how Gavin does here against Rob. I mean, he has been with the boys every step of the way. He's been right there pushing the boys every step of the way. We don't have a PB on the springboard for Gavin Thompson, so what that tells me is either there's nothing registered for him because we haven't got an official score from him. That doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have a good time on the springboard, so this will be an opportunity for us to see him in action on the springboard and actually to register a time for him. Now, Rob, we do know, has a personal best time of 1:25.25. So we'll bring the guys out in a second here as the last minute preparations are going on, and you can see those 4 stands for our last sets of heats here. Springboards number 3 and 4. And then heat number 4, we're going to see Graham Turner going up against Glenn Penlington. These guys seem to have been on a collision course against each other all day long today. As we saw last year, the two of them battled hard all day long, and it was Glenn coming out on top by just a hair. Will this be Graham's year, or will somebody untoward, unexpected come out of the woodwork, literally, and take over the top spot there?
All right, we are ready to go. Let's welcome on to our stage our next 2 athletes, Gavin Thompson and Rob Chatley.
And let's not forget here, folks, that this is the final 2 heats, heats 3 and 4, before we eliminate 2 more athletes from our standing and move on to the hot saw, where they will battle on stage for supremacy in the Great British Timbersports, STIHL Timbersports, Great British Championships. I couldn't have made a mess of that moniker if I had tried harder.
This is on an axe edge now because, like you say, Troy, we go from 6 athletes down to 4. Gavin is on the cusp, and as is Rob. We've got a sneaky look at the standings prior to them attempting the springboard.
Gavin currently sitting in 6th place, so if he has a good springboard here, it may bode well for him, and Rob Chapman in 4th place needs to have a good
athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, Gavin looking good. He's got 6 hits so far. Rob, however, has got a 4-hit pocket right off the hop, and he steps up onto that first board and starts to set that second pocket. Gavin doing a little bit of house cleaning on the far side of the stage there. He seems pleased with the pocket, gets the board in, and he will move up. That bottom board sagging ever so slightly for Gavin as Rob is up into setting that second pocket. Seems okay with that. 6 hit and a little bit of scraping, and he gets that second board in place. Looks solid, and he'll move up there with that tooth biting in, and let's see how he goes once he's on top. Takes a lot of time, but he is well back on the board from our perspective here, and he starts working on the top. Now, you can't really see it from the television side of things, but if you look at it live, these whole entire stands are wiggly. They are so wiggly, so you have to have your wits about you as you're driving on that top block to try and get through. Gavin Thompson up on his board, but it is looking a little bit saggy. Interestingly, he doesn't seem to be too bothered by it as he is leaning back on that back leg quite well and putting in some good power into those drivers, so representing Ireland really well. And Robert Shatley getting pretty deep on that first side. I think he's probably wanting to do 2 or 3 more hits and then switch sides, because he needs to cut through from both sides. Gavin, meanwhile, doing a good job to keep up with him. 1 minute left to go before timeout, but now Rob moving over to the other side with that awkward backside hit there. Gavin still working on the second side, and we have a block down for Rob Shatley at 1:40.36. So a respectable time there for Rob, and Gavin moving around gingerly on that sagging board, making sure that he can hit that backside as the time just ekes up towards 2 minutes, and that will give him 30 seconds to get through the backside. We should see him get through there as the fans here in the stadium area on the grass are watching and giving him a lot of support. 2:10, and he's getting close to it. He's pretty close. A quick look up, you could see him glance very briefly at the clock to make sure he keeps apprised of the time, and it's getting close to cutting through there. It's a bit of a sticky one though, and he almost has it with 4 seconds to go. He needs to have it. Come on, give it some more. Oh, and unfortunately, he gets a DQ because of the time exceeded. So for Gavin Thompson, his first showing here on springboard, he showed definite skills, but the pocket on that second pocket just didn't have the stability that he really needed to feel confident and really go for it. And even though I said it seemed like it wasn't bothering me because it was putting a fair amount of pressure on that back leg, it just was too much up top.
Okay, so we have a disqualification on stand 1 for exceeding the time limit. However, this cut is good.
What we should also preface here is many of these athletes that are competing at the pro level have never really had a lot of experience with the springboard. It's a discipline that's been around for years, but it's not really been part of the timber sports as much. And, you know, so let me rephrase this. It has been, but it hasn't been a focus as much as the other disciplines like underhand chop and standing block chop. So a lot of these guys are learning it now for the first time, whereas there are other athletes that have had the experience on it through various other programs and shows and stuff who come in with a little bit more skill on the springboard. So it's a very, very difficult discipline to learn, and then it's also even more difficult to get good at and become proficient at. So, you know, in all fairness to these guys, they are in one of the toughest situations ever on the springboard here and having to battle through to get a good time. That is just that's a job and a half.
Yeah, clearly 2 very talented athletes, and Gavin has pushed everyone all the way today. And here we see now the final heat in the springboard. Graham Turner and Glenn Penlington, they go toe-to-toe, axe to axe once again. They've actually FaceTiming each other over the course of the past year with like, my training's going better than yours. So a little bit
of mental waterboarding between the two of them.
They're great buddies though, but this is where friendship goes out the window. They want points. They want the points. They want the win. They want the British title.
Yes, and why wouldn't they? Bragging rights, among other things. And just being able to go na 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 na.
Plus they've got to share a campsite together later on, so you do want those bragging rights.
Glenn currently holding the national record. I believe 104 is what I saw up there. So if he's holding the national record, that means his personal best is not 110, but 104 and change. Graham Turner, his personal best listed here is 224.55. Really on, you know, on the cusp of being a DQ. Let's see if he's improved in this status here.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, a really fast 4-hit pocket for Glenn as he gets that board in and placed, and it is holding solidly. It's about 6-7 hits for Graham as he gets the board in place, and Glenn is already working on that second pocket. That first pocket was impressive from Glenn, though, and Graham not liking the position of that first board, just going back down to reset. Glenn's second board is in place, and it's looking pretty solid. He's got a steep angle on it, and he wants to hold that angle and put as much into that top block as he possibly can. Graham getting up onto his first board now. He just needs to get that second pocket set as that board starts to sag. He doesn't want to waste too much time here, but he also wants to make sure he's safe. Glenn really well and truly into that top block as he's getting deep on the first side. He is looking like it is going to be a fantastic time for Glenn Penlington as he's almost switched sides here. He should do that any second now. And it is looking very good as Graham is starting to set his second board in place and get up onto it. He needs to feel confident on that board and put some of that power into it. Did that tooth hook in? It has, but it's not looking super comfortable as it's got a bit of sag. Glenn has moved over to the second side of his board now, chopping through the backside at the odd angle. He's going straight in, and he's going to have a time of 122.38, and he sent that board right, that block right down off the stage, and it is now just trouble for Graham Turner as he fell down. He didn't fall down, but jumped down onto that lower board, and there just wasn't any purchase for him at all. And this is looking like a terrible situation for a fantastic athlete that's just having a tough time here, and he's opting to find a new location for his pocket and put a board in. He's going to keep fighting, but at this point there's no chance that he's going to be able to get up there and cut the top off inside the time, as he's got to reset everything and climb up on that board. Now that board looked great. It's too bad he couldn't have had that one at the start. He's passing the 2-minute 10-second mark, and that is a disappointing situation for Graham because he definitely can do better than that, absolutely. And I feel really bad for him because this was one of those situations where it very potentially could have been a chance for him to take over the top spot. Doesn't necessarily mean he's out of the running at all. He's got some good points, but that is timeout DQ for time limit exceeded for Graham Turner. Glenn Penlington with a 123.33. And it's only 3 guys who managed to get times on the board.
Okay, so we have a disqualification on stand 2 for exceeding the time limit. However, stand 4, the cut is good.
Yeah, like we've been saying all day long, Alex, I mean, this is an incredibly difficult discipline. There are so many things that play a role, and making sure that these guys get absolutely the right situation. Now for Glenn here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we didn't get to see the 4th hit, but he had a 4-hit pocket there. I believe his upper pocket was maybe 5 or 6, and then he got up there and started working on the top board. Let's see, 1, 2. Of course, they don't give me the numbers. But yeah, I mean, you know, Glenn just really had a dynamic first and second board, and then on top, he just really went for it. And I love the fact that he's out on the backside of his board, really far back. And here you could see Graham gets up there and that board started to sag on him. Unfortunately, it just didn't have the hold that he needed, and there was no chance for him at all. And when he came down, he just lost that bottom board. So he had to reset everything and start from scratch, basically, which is super unfortunate.
Yeah, tragic end to the springboard for Graham, and he didn't give up, to his credit. He just saw that time run out on him right there.
That second board was beautiful. If he had managed to get that the first time around, it would have been a different story altogether, and we might have even seen a faster time. But that's the luck of the draw sometimes, you know. You have to have the confidence in the board and the pocket and everything. And it's such a finicky thing to set that pocket just right so that tooth holds in and hooks up.
Yeah, a different story on the other stand, Glenn Penlington, who I feel like every time he gets on the springboard, we see something special. He puts on a show. And another superstar of the springboard is a man you know very well.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling Hart, the guy we talked about having the world record in 2016 at the World Championship in Stuttgart. Appropriately, we're heading back to Stuttgart, and Sterling is going to be competing in Canada to try and get himself back at the World Championships once again. And I do believe we have video of his world record springboard, which, I mean, this was the gods smiling on a man on that particular day, because this is a time that is unheard of in the world of springboard. Around 45, 50 seconds. Okay, sure, if you're really lucky. This time that we're going to see, I don't know if we'll ever see that. Let's have a look.
3, 2, 1, go!
I remember being in the studio and calling that one there and nearly breaking the window of the glass in front of me because I was hammering on it so hard. And then I thought about it. No. Wait a minute. The clock had to be broken. You can't have a time like that. That's just unheard of. Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing run. And like I said, it's the gods smiling on Sterling Hart on that day for an incredible time that hasn't been broken since.
Yeah, I've watched that 3 times already today just to get myself pumped for our British Championships, which is coming to a climax. And let's look at the points as they've been distributed. Unfortunately, as you know now, our watching public, there's a few disqualifications. This event, the springboard, is pretty unforgiving once it gets a hold of you. So only 3 athletes. That just goes to show how difficult it is. We'll get points here now. Tom Redmond, he gets 12 points. Rob Chatley, 14 points. That puts him firmly in the mix. But the full 16 points on the springboard goes to our reigning British champ, Glenn Penlington. So, Troy, let's see how that affects things with the overall standings now. We have 8 athletes. We're going to lose a couple.
Yeah, John Lewis and Osh Williams will unfortunately be knocked out of the 8 guys that were there, and we will continue on with the top 6. And as we see, Graham Turner is in there in 4th place. So he does still have an opportunity to take it all with a good hot saw.
Yeah, and there's big points up for grabs in the hot saw. So all is not lost for our athletes. You saw that 10-point gap between Rob Chatley in 2nd place and Glenn Penlington in 1st place. Now, you call this the maker or the breaker of hearts, of training regimes, of standings. Let's see how it's going to unfold.
These custom handmade race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder 2-stroke engine, often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms, and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action, and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification.
Yeah, the hot saw can define any athlete's championship. It's a make or break scenario. Let's see whether you love it or you hate it.
This is the one and only discipline where the athletes are alone on stage.
Yeah, probably the most important event, but yeah, also the most frustrating.
These saws are so incredibly powerful and dangerous.
Usually the hot saw is the decider.
Hot saw, hot saw.
Like I can't describe to you when we're out there under pressure.
Saw starts well, first disc looks solid, cut is good.
You know, you're always ending the competition on a hot saw, so you know where you're going to be at when you finish. So you're either at a real big high or just is what it is.
Nice clean cut, easy, relaxed.
Der Hot Saw ist für mich die geilste Disziplin der Welt.
5, 6, 8, Robert Ebner, 3 on the deck.
Hot saw is a love-hate for me. I honestly don't get that much enjoyment out of it. I'm not a motorhead. I swallow my pills and eat it.
Once the competition comes, anything can happen. Oh no, a false start by Sterling Hart. What a disaster.
Yeah, it was a disappointment for me. Happens though, it's part of competing.
I saw there's 3 good discs there, but then let that nose come right up underneath the crossover line.
Unfortunately, a disqualification.
It all relies on the hot saw.
Oh no.
Irgendwie soll es einfach nicht sein. Und dann springt die Hot Saw nicht an, wieder mal.
Oh man, that is a bummer for Robert Ebner.
What are you taking away from this event?
Oh, probably last place. I don't know, headache. Yeah, shit hot saw. What else do you want?
If you have bad luck or if you did wrong, it's part, just your experience.
Oh my goodness, what an absolute disaster. The chain came off.
I was not disappointed because everybody see that I can be with the guys in front.
It was a bit of a disaster, so it was just operator error, and I didn't perform as well as I would have liked to.
Nice safe cut.
Oh no! Oh no!
Never prepared for that situation, but luckily it started and I got 3 wheels and now I'm the world champion.
Yeah, it's the make or break event, you know.
I think you love it and you hate it.
Das ist eigentlich immer ein geiles Ding. Ich schneide immer sehr sicher.
Oh, great start for both of these guys. Look at how quick it's going for Robert Ebner. Oh my God, Robert Ebner, he's got a world record. Holy smokes, folks.
Ich wollte das Ding heimbringen, ich wollte Weltrekord schneiden und ich danke meiner Familie zu Hause und alle, die mich unterstützt haben.
Just try to make 3 good cuts and no disqualification.
The hot saw is where it's all one, so that's the best event.
Yeah, the tension is cranked up here now. The world record, Troy, that's insane. 4.62 seconds picking up, essentially,
unbelievable.
A speedboat engine and going through some wood 3 times.
Yeah, I mean,
up and down.
that's a fast time as well. That was set recently in the United States, and that is an insane. I think the last previous world record was like 4.95, so, 0.3 of a second faster. The world record is a tough thing in this discipline because there's so much going on with that hot saw. You can see they're big, they're heavy, they're angry, they're loud. They shake like crazy when you've got them in your hands. If they don't start right, if they don't run right, the whole situation can go pear-shaped on you really fast. But we are ready to go with our first heat.
Yeah, the final 6 athletes that have made it to the grand stage of the hot saw, the absolute leveler of a discipline, George Spencer and Gavin Thompson. Can they harness the beast?
Well, George Spencer doesn't have a time in the books yet, but Gavin Thompson does at 18.19 seconds. So tail of the tape has him well off pace, but what we've seen so far today is Gavin Thompson has been a surprisingly stable and excellent athlete and competitor. So will he be able to pull that together in this hot saw round up against George Spencer? Again, remembering that it's not a knockout system, it's about the time that you can achieve. And the fastest time is going to be the one that counts.
This is our camera backstage where the hot saws, they have to be warmed up. They have to be suitably ready for the athletes. Otherwise...
Well, there needs to be last-minute checks on the operational safety of the saws before they come on stage. Then you'll see the athletes, they'll warm up the saws on stage one last time before they rewrap the starter cord. And it is a cold start as opposed to the stock saw, which is a hot start with the saw running. It is a cold start with the hot saw. So that means they have to start the saw, lift and aim, cut 3 clean cookies on the deck, and then place it back down on the floor safely for the score to count. And there's so many things that can play a role here. And as we see Dan Jansen in the back there trying, or I think it's Dan Jansen. Oh no, that's Graham Turner, excuse me. You know, trying to get his saw started up. And you can hear that deep throaty growl from his Wankel motor. I had that backwards the other day. And the Rotax motor, you'll hear the Rotax motor. The other saws, it's a little bit higher pitched and whiny. Either way, these saws are incredibly powerful, incredibly dangerous. You know, that chain moves at 250 and more kilometers per hour. If even a portion of it flies off of that bar, there could be drama. We saw that with Redmer Knoll at the championships in Rotterdam recently. The chain actually flew off and cut the inside of his leg where the chaps that he was wearing didn't cover. So he got very, very lucky that he only needed 10 stitches, but these machines can really do damage.
Yeah, so saws are warmed up. We have George Spencer stage left as you look at it, and Gavin Thompson over to the right-hand side.
Very nice bar on that saw from George Spencer, throwing some color into the mix. And there you see Gavin Thompson's saw.
Is that your heartbeat making that noise, Troy?
I think so, yeah. It's very possibly. Or maybe it's George's. I'm not sure.
Okay, gentlemen. Warm up your saws.
There you hear the Rotax motor on the saw from Gavin Thompson. A little bit higher pitch. Nonetheless, still lots of power. Now for George, this is a moment that's got to be nerve-wracking because he has not yet gotten that saw started. And this is very important here. Needs to have that saw warm and ready to go. Last minute checks, make sure everything is okay.
30 seconds.
Oh no. George is really having problems with his motor here. He hasn't managed to get it started yet. And it might have to be a literally cold start for George Spencer, which would be a disaster. Looks like he's going to have to go that way, and hopefully he can get that saw started. Gavin Thompson making the last of the marks on his block. And here we go, folks. Don't blink, or you'll miss it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, look at that, 11.67 for Gavin Thompson. 3 beautiful thin cookies on the deck. George Spencer, he wants to have a time. He needs to have that time, and he wants to get that saw started. It's been troubling him right from the get-go on the warm-up, and that is a huge problem for George. He's not going to give up, though. As he gets that wrapped again, he'll try and move that chain to get that piston activated in there and try and get that motor started, but it's just not happening. He is fighting for it. And I believe 1 minute is the timeout on this. I'm not 100% sure on that. Or maybe they don't do a timeout because of the importance of this discipline here. But he's just having all kinds of problems getting that saw started. And it can stem from any number of issues. Yeah, there you go. 1 minute is the DQ timeout for the hot saw. And unfortunately for George Spencer, he didn't even get it started. And like I said, it could be any number of factors that playing a role there. Could be some blockage in the system. It is just a bummer. And what we just saw there, anything can happen in the hot saw, and that's why they call it the maker or the breaker.
Okay, unfortunately, we have a disqualification on stand one. However, this cut is good.
So Gavin Thompson, our Irish competitor, happy with that result.
And right now, that's elevated Gavin to third position with 4 athletes to go. Great start from Gavin Troy.
Yeah, really good start. I mean, it took him a second to get the saw in place, but you could see how thin that cookie was. That's a beautiful thin cookie, but what even more impressive is that second cookie was almost as thin. That says a lot about the accuracy of his cuts there. Look at that. That's an incredible cut there, and that third one just as thin. So that was a beautiful set of cookies. Now all he needs to do is just get that kind of a cut a little bit faster, and he is going to be rock and roll with that hot saw.
All right, heat 2, our penultimate heat in this final discipline, the hot saw. Graham Turner and Tom Redmond, both knocking on the door of the championship.
Yeah, Graham Turner needs some redemption in this hot saw after the timeout on the springboard, excuse me. But he's very, very good in this discipline, and he's got himself a Wankel motor there on that saw. You can see the fat bar as well. My opinion is, and I'm no expert here in that case, my opinion is the fat bar holds the chain just a little bit more taut than the straight bar, and so less risk of the chain coming off. Not that it doesn't happen, it has happened before, but I just believe that it's a little bit more stable on a fat bar like that with the bulbous middle section. And we could see there's the straight harvester bar from STIHL on the saw of Tom Redmond. Now the question is, how are these?
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
Good start for both of those guys, and you could see when Tom had that saw and the chain running, there was a small gap just under the bar, and that is what we talk about when the chain is a bit too loose and you start putting pressure on it in the log. There's a risk that the chain might fly off, and this is exactly what happened to Red McNoll in Rotterdam last week. So 30 seconds, last preparations for both of these guys, the tension mounts, as Graham Turner needs a good result in this hot saw.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Graham Turner with a 9.81. Tom Redmond had to cut a fourth cookie because he did have a cutout by the looks of it. It's important that you have 3 complete cookies on the deck. If they break when they hit the deck, like we've seen with Graham's, it's no big deal as long as our judges can put the pieces back together to form a complete cookie. And it looks like these cuts are going to be called good for these guys, so we will have times on the boards for them.
Let's hear from Andy Hall.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So Graham Turner with a 9.81 has the high points at the moment, but there is one more heat to go in the hot saw, and that is Rob Chatley and Glenn Penlington. You can see here, this is Tom Redmond's first cut. On the second cut, I think the second cut was actually quite okay. It was the third cut, was it? Let's see here. I think it was the third cut. He had a cutout, and then he went back and did a fourth one just to be on the safe side. It was a thin cookie, though. Yeah, that, you know, obviously that's going to cause it to run a little bit slower, and we move on to our third and final heat in hot saw. The next pairing, Rob Chatley going up against Glenn Penlington. Tail of the tape has these two guys about as evenly matched up in hot saw as you can get.
Yeah, this is so delicately poised now, Troy. You do not want a DQ.
I mean, for Glenn Penlington right now, he needs to have 3 good cookies on the deck and no disqualification, and he can have a dead slow time, and that will be good enough points for him to repeat, but we will see. It's all left wide open now.
Rob Chatley there, our former British champ. Concentration levels at their highest. Like you say, so many things to think about with this chainsaw. Pressure mounting with every second. It's a British Championship on the line.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
Rob Chatley's got his running, no problem. Glenn, struggling a little bit there. Something's going on.
"30 seconds.
There we go. Figured it out. That got close to the wire here. He's got it running. So that's the important thing. He's got a bit of heat in there, and now he's got to reset that cable in order to be on time for the start of the heat.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Glenn Penlington with a personal best 8.34. Chatley had to go back and cut a fourth cookie because he had a cutout and an incomplete disc, so that puts him at 13.46. So that is a great run from Glenn Penlington.
That was one of those moments in sport where you think, one of those moments in sport there, Troy, where you just think,
okay,
oh my
congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, so it's been confirmed both cuts are good. We'll take a look back at the slow-mo here. Really, really nice start from Rob Chatley. He had a quick first cut, but boy, Glenn Penlington was all over that first and second cut. 2 nice cookies wrestling with that 35-kilo heavy saw. That was a big fat cookie at the end, which was maybe a bit risky coming close to the line. but he seemed pretty pleased with it with a fist bump. And there's that broken cutout cookie as Rob had to go back in and recut a cookie to push his time down to 13 seconds. So as we take a look at the hot saw results, Glenn Pendleton topped the board with 8:30. Graham Turner with a 9:60. Well cut for Graham. And Gavin Thompson in third place in the hot saw results with an 11:58. Rob Chatley, 13:28. And then we have Tom Redmond with a 13:40. And George Spencer, unfortunately, didn't make it inside the minute mark because of his saw not starting with a time limit exceeded DQ. So we're going to go up to the main stage shortly, but we've just witnessed some fantastic competition. We saw that final discipline, the hot saw, the maker or the breaker, and we did see it broke a couple. It may have made another, and we have to wait and see who will be on that stage on the top of the podium in just a couple of seconds as we get the stage ready for our awards ceremony. Alex has already left the studio and headed up on top of that stage, and we will join him shortly there in a second. It has been a fantastic, great British Steel Timber Sports Championship 2023 for our pros. We've seen some fantastic action on stage. All I can say is it's looking very good here in the sunshine of Malvern at the festival, and we've had some fantastic action here at this championship, and we're looking forward to more from Great Britain and further down the road from our other events that are coming up as the season progresses. We will be next week in France. And of course, we still do have the World Championship at the end of our season in November in Stuttgart with a lot of different events in between now and then. So make sure you check STIHLTimbersports.com to find out more about the timing of the different events that are coming up. And if you want to get involved in the chat, we still do have our hashtags. Hashtag KissMyAxe, don't misunderstand what I'm saying there, and hashtag Steel Timber Sports if you want to get involved in the conversation. Put your 2 cents worth in, send us comments, tell us about what you're liking about the sport, and we will set it up. And we're going to head over to Alex on the main stage now for our awards ceremony.
Thank you so much, Troy. Yes, I'm delighted to bring our athletes onto the stage, and we'll go in reverse order now. Round of applause, please, and congratulations to everybody. 12th place, John Sunstall. 11th place, Dan Whelan. 10th place, Terry Hoff. 9th place, Martin Price. 8th place, Os Williams. 7th place, Johnny Lewis. 6th place at this Great British Championships, George Spencer. 5th place, our guest from Ireland, Gavin Thompson. A 4th place finish with 55 points is Graham Turner. Now we are on to the podium finishes. In 3rd place with a grand total of 56 points, Mr. Tom Redmond. Second place, 60 of your finest Great British points goes to Rob Chatley. Congratulations, Rob, on your 2nd place finish. And our champion for 2023, the Steel Timber Sports Great Britain. Please welcome, once again, Mr. Glenn Pendleton. So it's about time now, Troy, that the champagne corks are about to pop. Congratulations once again to all our athletes and our winner, our Great British Champion of 2023, Glenn Pendleton. And thank you for the champagne to our senior management from Steel GB. I'm going to grab our champ for a quick chat. Glenn, congratulations once again. You're dripping in champagne, but surely that's the perfect way to finish this year's championship. That's what you want it to be, covered in champers.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's so good to get that title back this year. You know, wasn't a fluke last year, and just want to say happy birthday to Dad. Don't have to buy you a present now, do I?
Listen, we all had our hearts in our mouths in that hot saw there, and when the chainsaw wouldn't get going for you on a couple of tries, what was going through your mind?
Oh, to be honest, I was like, I just got to keep my cool here. Like, you know, we saw it with George with the saw he had an ankle as well, so I was just like, if I can just keep my cool here and just try and just keep pulling that cord. When I had the 30 seconds, I thought there's still plenty of time, so I just give it, I think it was 2 more pulls, and then once it started, you know, I knew it was going to be all right then.
Now, you've got Stuttgart on the horizon, part of Team GB. That's going to be November. Are you looking forward to that, and what the preparation is going to be like in the lead up to it?
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll keep the training up. You know, we'll go there strong. We had a strong performance last year as a team, so hopefully we can improve on that one, get another few places up on that roster, and yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, final words from you, Glenn. I know you've got your sister competing tomorrow in the female champ, so hopefully you'll make it a family 1-2 again for the weekend.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, hopefully Zoe can retain her title as well, and it's Mum's birthday tomorrow, so there's no pressure on her there. Last year I had all the pressure when Zoe won before me, so pressure's on her today.
Listen, we gave our congratulations, our heartfelt best to our Great British Champ of 2023. Once again, Glenn Penlington. Troy, it's back over to you.
What a fantastic event we've had here today in Malvern for the 2023 Great British Pro Steel Timber Sports Championship. We're going to have one last quick look at our rankings here as they shifted after the hot saw. And we saw full 18-point honors go to Glenn Penlington with a full 79 points, Rob Chatley, and then Tom Redmond in places 2nd and 3rd. Graham Turner, unfortunately, dropping down into 4th place this year by virtue of a bit of a rough springboard, but he will be back. You know he's going to be fighting in our guest visitor, Gavin Thompson from Ireland, rounding out the top 5 here. It's been a fantastic pro competition. We've got lots more action coming to you tomorrow with the rookies and the women, so make sure you join us then. Until then, we're going to cut out with the highlights of the day and say thank you for joining us. Till next time, take care, everybody. See ya.